Good evening. Hope it's been a decent week. Wow, we've already got 13 people watching. Thank you guys so much for showing up today. Maybe have some people coming over from Common Censored over there. Lord Sterling has a great show. I think he's Monday through Friday. A little earlier in the evening than me, but awesome channel to check out, Common Censored. Great stuff. Great stuff. We cover some similar topics. He's got a little bit better production value, I'm not going to lie. I'm just hanging out here in my bedroom doing my thing. But hope everybody has had a great week. It's been pretty calm here. We didn't have anything too crazy from the remnants from the hurricane. It rained a little bit. Weatherman was talking it up like it was going to be something special, but 90-mile-an-hour winds was the suggested the prediction, and 6 inches of rain and all kinds of crazy stuff. But luckily, we didn't get too much of that nonsense. I'm going to check Rumble real quick and just make sure that we are live. Gotta make sure. Sometimes things take a minute with Rumble. That's all right, though. We love Rumble. Let's make sure. Looks like we do. All right. Good deal. Awesome. Not seeing anything popping up in the live chat yet. But if you guys are here, if you want to participate in chat, that's fine. If you want to lurk, that's fine too. Love my lurkers as well. I know a lot of times people listen to shows and just kind of hang out listening. That's just fine. I do a lot of, I love listening to shows while doing yard work. I almost feel like I'm not doing it right if I'm not listening to a podcast or a stream or something like that. We got Yanni Fangs. Saw you earlier. Looking at, I can see it on the Rumble app on my phone. So thank you everybody who is here. If you haven't followed the channel yet, Billdozer74 here on Rumble. Billdozer74 on YouTube as well if you want to go there. Not really focused on YouTube, to be honest. I like Rumble. But rumbling on Rumble. What's up, Yanni Fangs? Appreciate you, bud. I'm Dozer74 on X. And I'm actually up over 1,000. Good old Joe Neerman, good logic. He helped me break 1,000 followers on X. I think I'm up to 1,050 or something like that right now. I get into dust-ups every now and then there. What's up, Sanglant? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Looks like we got some people rolling in. Got a pretty decent show lined up for you guys. We are first thing that we're going to talk about is Biden's big boy press conference. Biden had a big boy press conference, guys. They literally called it a big boy press conference. Karine Jean-Pierre, John Kirby, I think that's his first name, John. A big boy press conference. If you guys watched it, he had 5 minutes where he went off first. No caps for phone. Thanks for joining, Don. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you. McGroin Nation as well. Another good place to look for on Rumble. Great community of people hanging out in the live chat. Usually there's music. Sometimes there's not, but sometimes there's shows that they're playing and just people hanging out in chat, building communities, building connections. They have a Discord as well. And usually if you get in there and you comment, somebody will direct you to that. And if you've got a show, they ask that you post links in the comments, not necessarily in the live chat. At least I think I was told that once by Don. But what's up? How's it going, Lord Sterling? Thanks for watching. Appreciate you, bud. Great show tonight, man. Great show. You were on fire tonight. Good stuff. Good stuff. The first thing, like I said, that we're going to do tonight, we're going to be talking about Biden's big boy press conference. It was something to behold. Potato Brain was... Salute, Lord Sterling. But we, the potatoes are mashed. I would say 3 years ago, Mr. Potato Brain, they were French fries at least. They were at least French fries. We are now at mashed potato level of president. We have the mashed potato president. And it's stunning. It's stunning. There are people right now saying that press conference helped assuage their fears, helped make them a little bit more comfortable. It's totally mashed. Exactly. Totally mashed. But there are some that are reporting that, oh, hey there. Hey, Mama Mac. I was trying to get someone else's, but hi. Um, some people are saying that he actually did a fantastic job. And if your metric of success is he didn't fall over, he didn't, stop talking for a whole minute, if he didn't start rambling and shouting curses, if that's your measure of success, then I mean, sure, why not? But he did start shouting at some point. We're gonna watch it. I might skim through some of it because I think it's about 45 minutes or something like that. So I've got other topics that I do want to talk about. Cyrene Pickle when he said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, guys, we have a new vice president. We have a new vice president, Vice President Trump, according to the ever vigilant and sharp-minded individual known as Joe Biden. His vice president's been Trump the whole time. No wonder Kamala hasn't been doing anything. No wonder she hasn't been getting much done. Even though her knee pads may be strong, she can't compete with Vice President Trump. He said Vice President Trump. And it's great. We're gonna watch towards the end. He was actually called out on that. And he did the old creepy whisper. He did the thing where he gets close and he goes to whisper. That's supposed to help us be confident that the commander in chief, another one where he called somebody else the commander in chief. Okay, okay, man, that's it's not good. It's not good. It's very concerning, but it is entertaining, darn it. And we are gonna laugh at it, and we're gonna mock it, and we're gonna have a good time. I will try to keep it. I'll try not to interrupt. I'll try to respect the office of former Vice President Joe Biden, and I'll try not to pause it too much. If it seems like it's a point where it's like not, I don't know. We'll see how it goes whenever I get into it because I do have some other topics after we get done talking. Oh, what's up, Castro? Nice to see you. And we got a poppin' chat today. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. If After we get done talking about Biden, we're gonna watch through it, and pretty sure I've got it bookmarked, easily findable. It's been all the rage this evening. People are talking it up. Also on X, also on YouTube. I don't really focus much on YouTube. I think I have 11 subscribers there. Dozer 74 there, so or Bill Dozer 74 on YouTube as well. But yeah, I'm more focused on the free speech platforms like Rumble. Rumble does great stuff, and I know just mentioning Rumble in a YouTube stream will kill the reach, but I'm not really focused on that platform. I'm focused on a free speech platform like this because I think it's important. No platform is perfect. That is true, and they may have growing pains, but Rumble is dedicated to free speech. There's multiple countries. I think it was France, Russia, and Brazil. I think Brazil was one of the countries that suggested that Rumble censor, and Rumble said no. Rumble said, no, we're going to keep letting people speak. We're going to let people do their thing. And I respect that because they're losing money from that. So but I think in the long run, it's going to end up bolstering the people who support Rumble, and it's going to be beneficial and help the success of an alternative to CommuTube. So I think it's a good thing. I'm really liking what Rumble's been doing. They did an update recently. If you didn't see it, there's in the app anyways. And I know not everybody watches on the app because the app does need work. It does. And, you can maybe avoid ads by doing other things. You can also avoid ads by subscribing to the channel, Bill Dozer 74 here on Rumble. If you want, I think it's like $5 a month. I am also working on building up my locals, the Dozer Den. My wife thought that was kind of a funny name. She made some adult jokes about it. Do with it what you will. The Dozer Den, thedozerden.locals.com. That is my locals community. And pretty much what I've got there is I'll post some stuff that I find interesting, news stories, memes. I do have some spicy memes that I like to share every now and then. I'll be sharing, of course, stream links and stuff like that. And I'll start posting, I think a lot of the times what I'll use X for as well, and Gab and True Social. I'll shout out. I'll try to post out other creators as well because I think if I think it's a good thing to support each other. And if you like the content, you like the content. If you don't, you don't. That's okay. You know, I am here to inform and entertain. If I can help somebody get a little bit more informed and do it in a way that gives you a little chuckle every now and then, well, darn it, I feel like I'm doing something important. So, oh man, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you guys. I really do. There may be an ad read at some point today. We're not going to do that right off the bat, though. That'll pop up later, most likely. What we are going to be doing after we talk about Biden's big boy press conference is we're going to go into a little bit of the SAVE Act. It was a good effort by the Republicans in the House, definitely was, to ensure that only legal American citizens are the ones that are going to be voting in our elections. Almost every Democrat voted against the SAVE Act. I think there were a handful, maybe five. I think people, five Democrats voted for the SAVE Act. And I think they were in southern, like Texas, South Carolina, Georgia, I believe. Only five Democrats voted to protect our election process, even though there were claims of xenophobia and racism. Here's the crazy thing, and I've encountered this recently. The crazy thing, when someone says it's racist to make sure that illegals cannot vote, they're assuming that the only illegals that are present are of a certain race. That's very interesting, because if you look at the demographics for people coming across the border, they're not all Hispanic, are they? No, they're not. So the fact that they're assuming that everybody coming across, there's a lot of Chinese, a lot of Indian, a lot of African, a lot of military-aged males. They don't like that phrase, military-aged males. They think that's racist too, apparently. Everything is racist. Everything is racist, guys. It's lost its bite. It pretty much means nothing, which is kind of a sad statement when there are people that are actually violently racist. It's kind of a little bit of a, the boy who cried wolf kind of thing. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we've got that going on. But see you guys getting it. Yes, smash that like, bigots. Get after it. Smash it, caress it, nibble on its back of its neck. Oh wait, that's Biden. Sorry. Don't do that. Don't do that to the like button. Come on. It used to be a plus button. If you guys remember in the old days of Rumble, it was the plus button. And some people, some channels referred to it as the plussy. I'm not going to do such a thing because I think that's just rather crude. But if that's what you feel like doing, then race colored, absolutely, Sterling. They are wearing race colored glasses. Race colored. Ooh, speaking of, there was a conversation real quick. We're going to get back to our pre-stream kind of intro there, but the colored thing. There was a fella, I think on X, I think his name is Zeke. That or one of the Hodge twins, I think they brought it up too. The difference between people of color and colored people. And he asked somebody that was a Democrat or a lefty, he said, "Can you please explain the difference in these terms to me? Explain the difference, colored people or people of color." It's pretty much the same thing. It's just moved around a little bit. And it's supposed to make you feel better. Just people are people. That's where I'm at. People are people. It is very interesting to see the focus on race when really, rose covered. yeah, it's a good comparison there, Sterling. Definitely is. But it's fascinating that with something like that, with illegal immigrants, or excuse me, there's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. Immigration is a legal process. We have illegal aliens. That's also not a racist term. Some people think it is, but it's not. It's just the truth. The truth is okay. Using words like discriminatory, that is just a word. People get hung up on the connotation with words when the denotation matters. Okay? You can attribute connotation to it if you like, but colored greens, what? The people can attribute a connotation instead of the denotation, when sometimes people like me, for instance, I'm pretty literal about things. And usually when I'm saying things, I'm speaking from a concrete, literal perspective a lot of ways, in a lot of times, excuse me. But You know, it's okay to say the words. It's okay to call things what they are. Words are words. Get over it. After we get done talking about, see y'all, see you Don, see you Don. Appreciate you hanging out for a little bit. After we get done talking about the SAVE Act, we're going to talk a little bit about Garland. So that's kind of our second topic is going to cover Congress stuff. We're going to talk about the SAVE Act, and then we're going to talk about Garland. Anna Paulina Luna. She is a congresswoman, Republican, and she was fighting hard to push a vote for holding the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, in inherent contempt. Inherent contempt because he refused to acknowledge a congressional subpoena. We currently have two people that are in prison. I'm pretty sure federal prison for not adhering to a congressional subpoena. Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. The left likes to talk about fascists. They like to talk about fascism, and yet they display the fascistic tendencies. When one side is silencing the other, that is absolutely fascistic, and that is what we see. But if they refuse to honor a congressional subpoena, like Merrick Garland did, he did not provide the audio, the full audio for the deposition, I believe it was, with Robert Hur. That's the deposition that led him to decide that Biden couldn't, they wouldn't pursue charges against Biden for his blatantly illegal possession of classified documents in a couple different places. One of them, in his garage by his Corvette. Yeah. That was okay. That was okay because you know why? You know why it was okay? Because Biden is a potato brain. And Hur said that in the nicest way possible. He said that a jury would be very unlikely to convict because they would assume that he is a well-meaning, forgetful old man. I'm not joking. This is an actual thing. This happened. Potato brain. They were trying their best to hide it by not releasing that audio. Then the debate happened, and it was the Bird Box moment. You know the scene in Bird Box? It's a Netflix movie. I think Sandra Bullock's one of the stars, where they have the monsters or the invisible things that make people do horrible things once they look at them. It's the Bird Box moment of them being grasped around the cheeks and forced to look at it. Forced to look at what we have for a president. Excuse me, the former Vice President, Joe Biden. It's been fascinating to see. Even Jake Tapper, which there's a clip of him being an absolute tool for the left back in the 2020 cycle, where I think it was Laura Trump was mentioning that Biden had a cognitive decline. And this is still when they called it a stutter. This is, Truman under sharpened pressure, Batacast care. That's Biden. That was Biden 3 years ago. Like I said, probably you could call it French fries back then. Now we're mashed potatoes. We are mashed potato president. And I would feel bad for him if he wasn't such an evil person whenever he was lucid. If, for instance, his daughter didn't write in her diary about, being afraid, purposefully waiting to take showers until later at night so that her dad wouldn't come in the shower with her. She didn't say specifically what age she was, but I think it's thought she might have been around like 12. Old enough to be uncomfortable with her father in the shower with her. And I know some people might say, like over in like Sweden or something like that, they do the saunas or something like that. It's part of their culture. It's not the same thing. And when she mentioned it in the same page about being hurt by an adult, it's kind of telling. So I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad for Joe Biden. I really don't. He deserves every bit of negative karma that comes his way, in my opinion. Tim Pool's gay music. That is extremely important and extremely relevant to this conversation. Birds aren't real. They're not real. Why do you think they're on the power lines, guys? Why do you think they're on the power lines? I'm just saying. They're charging up, guys. They're charging up. The CIA is using them to watch you. Come on, man. What are we talking about? What are we doing? Huh. Vice President Trump been in there. He's been in there the whole time. QAnon was right. Trump has been in the White House the whole time, guys. Gosh darn. Gosh darn. It's interesting. It's interesting. After we get done talking about the SAVE Act and Garland's contempt that, well, sadly didn't go through, there were a few, we're going to point out these Republican, which, as far as I'm concerned, the base, like the majority of the Republicans are part of the establishment. But you've got what I like to call the Lion Party. Trumpish kind of ideology, more independent, more libertarian flavored individuals that are in Congress, like a Matt Gaetz or Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey, by the way, class act, praying for peace for his family. He couldn't vote. He couldn't be present to make a vote on the SAVE Act or holding Garland in contempt, and because he was with his family after his wife just passed. And it's honestly none of our business how it happened. Obviously too young. Just praying for his family, praying that they can think of the good times that they had where they're in and be happy, find some solace in the good times that they had. Thomas Massey's a heck of a guy. That'd be an interesting VP. I'm just saying. Him or Rand Paul, Trump was down there talking it up. He was down in, I think, Miami recently, and he was trolling a little bit, talking about hinting at how Rubio might be the guy. I think that might be a bad idea. I don't know if Marco Rubio is the best intel agency insurance. Let's put it that way. I think you get somebody like, and I know people have their concerns about Vivek Ramaswamy. I get it. I do. And I don't trust any politician. None of them. Never trust a politician fully. Never trust me fully. Fact check the people that you watch. Fact check us. If you don't think we're on the right page, correct us. If I'm wrong on something, I am more than willing to accept that I was wrong about something. Because if you don't admit you're wrong, how can you learn? I think I've said it almost every stream. I'm not not like a Bible thumper or anything, but one of my favorite pieces of scripture is, as iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. It's very true. When you talk to other people, when you get different information, when you find opposing information to what you think, it causes cognitive dissonance. And if you can accept that, you can build upon your own perspectives and be stronger for it. That's my opinion. Vivek all day, Lord Sterling. He would be one of the best for the intel agency insurance. The CIA would not want to take Trump out. The FBI would not want to take Trump out if you automatically have somebody like Vivek coming up right behind. I'm just saying. It would be a good insurance. And honestly, I mean, in some aspects, he's kind of like MAGA times 1.5 in some ways. Now, like I said, never trust any politician fully, but God, it would be such a power ticket. Trump, Ramaswamy, that would be a power ticket. The list of vice presidential candidates that Trump has released or that people talk about regularly. The list, you've got Vivek Ramaswamy, you've got Tulsi Gabbard, you've got Ben Carson, you've got Byron Donalds, all kinds of diverse individuals. J.D. Vance, yet Trump's a violent racist. Just saying. I'm not saying play the id pull game with that. Don't do that. Pick the person that's best for the job. But man, Vivek's a firebrand. I think honestly, Trump's great, but I think that kind of makes Trump feel a little bit uneasy when somebody could steal the spotlight a little bit. Because if you saw whenever Vivek endorsed him, the energies, they're both right there. But man, Vivek's got good energy. He's got good energy. I think he was at the Libertarian National Convention as well. And Trump was at the Libertarian National Convention. So that's very interesting. Very interesting that those two were there. And a lot of libertarians are like, you know, I'm very libertarian leaning. I'm an independent. There's some things I'm more conservative on, some things I'm more liberal on. It just depends on what you talk to me about. For the most part, though, I lean more right. Just kind of how it goes. I wouldn't consider myself conservative fully, but there are some things that, yeah, I'm pretty like, yeah, no, like, the whole, leave the babies alone. Leave the babies alone. Just stop. There's no, you know, if, when the baby is born, we'll have a conversation later after the baby's set away on the table. Then the doctor and the mother will have a conversation. Was that governor from West Virginia, I believe? Oh, that's dicey stuff. That's dicey stuff right there. No bueno. No bueno. So after we get done talking about the SAVE Act and the Garland lack of contempt, we're going to talk about the 2025 fear porn. The 2025 stuff, lying in the yard. Might have to check that out later, Sanglant. When we get to the towards the end of our streams, typically I've been doing a little fun story or just kind of either a white pill or something to just kind of bring a little levity. It could be, I've got one. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I've got one that I saw earlier that just, it's funny, and it also is kind of a white pill. It's from California, the lovely, lovely streets of California. There was a Brazilian tourist that was getting attacked by a whatever Chuck Norris threw his hat in as VP. I mean, I don't know how you just don't make him the president at that point. It's Chuck Norris. You can't compete with Chuck Norris. Even Trump. The dude's a beast. It's Chuck Norris. He just runs the world. He's really the one running things. Honestly, if we think about it, Chuck Norris is probably the one in charge. We just don't really think about it. Makes sense to me. Or Steven Seagal. I'm a very dangerous man. Oh, goodness. Man. Oh, gosh darn. Ron Paul. I actually watched a really good interview with, it was on Liberty Lock Pod. Clint, or Clintina, as some of us call him. He's often on We Are Change with Luke Rudkowski. He did a great interview with Ron Paul. And just the man, he may have had his health scares in the past, but Ron Paul is still solid as ever. Solid as ever. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 2025 fear porn. I actually got into some spats with some people on Facebook. I don't get on, Fashbook very often because I actually took 2 years off after the 2020 election, and I saw the bullshit that they pulled. I said, no, I'm not going to be on Facebook. I deleted the dang app off of my phone. The only reason I got it back was so that I could sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. That was it. And I pop on there every now and then, and was actually talking with some people that I graduated with, and about the agenda, the Project 2025, because she was like, hey, look into this Project 2025 stuff. We have possible dictators coming in. I'm like, actually, you probably don't. That's not the official Trump platform. And I shared the link for the actual Trump platform. We're going to look at that here in a little bit. We're not going to go through all of Project 2025. From the little bit that I've read into it, there's some stuff that's actually pretty good. Oh my God. Oh no. There's some stuff in Project 2025 that's okay. Which is kind of why I like Trump's response was to distance himself, which is smart. It is. But also, there's some of the things in there that are pretty good. And some of the stuff lines up very well with Agenda 47, which is Trump's platform, Agenda 47. And the Republican National Committee adopted Trump's platform as their platform. So that's the official stance. So, but everybody's freaking out about it. Ben Shapiro, for some reason, was on Capitol Hill talking to Eric Swalwell or Fartwell, talking to him about Project 2025. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some stuff. I fear that the pendulum swing, because it tends to be with civilizations, you go one way and then it goes the other way. And it's not going to happen, but they talk about it all the time, The Handmaid's Tale, the pendulum swing going so far to the right that women cannot have their hair showing, or the tops of their head uncovered, or Going so hardcore with the biblical values to where it biblical values would be law. Like, for instance, not being able to eat certain hooved animals. I don't want to see that. I don't. In general, I kind of wish we had less federal government. As far as I'm concerned, the federal government needs to go. Leave it to the states. Let us do our thing. Let us have, you know, as the United States, we are 50 separate entities that are in an agreement to work as a united front. But we are individual states. So I am fine with a decentralized version of what we currently have. We are far too centralized. And the federal government has become this, amorphous blob of corruption and back scratching and lobbyists and constant freaking campaigning. We should not be in a system where as soon as you get elected, the first thing that you do is think about your next election, your next campaign. No, you work for the damn people. That's why you're there. Work for the people. Do your damn job, not campaign. Done with that. I'm done with that. One of the things 2025 aims to do is to dismantle the bureaucratic state. Great. Good. That's an aspect of 2025 that would be great. I saw somebody say that if you accept some of Project 2025, you have to accept all of it. It's a very, very smooth brain reading of it and a smooth brain interpretation of that. You can pick the good from it and implement those good things. You can do that. It's possible. It's very possible. So, sup, Slidey Pie? Gosh dang, y'all are gicking it. Good Lord. Oh no, I caught the Biden. Oh, just roll me off the Grand Canyon. Seriously, if I ever get to a point where I'm so infirmed that I'm not able to form clear thoughts in general, I wish to be strapped to a dirt bike and launched into the Grand Canyon. I think that's the best way to go. I'll be excited, and then scared, and then maybe excited, and then scared, and then I'll just be, see ya. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys liked that thumbnail. I found that it was Dr. Something on X. I saw it and I'm just like, yeah, that has to be the thumbnail for today. He's a big boy, guys. He's a big boy. When we get done talking about the 2025 fear porn, we're going to talk a little bit about Dr. David Martin. Dr. David Martin is an individual, and I think his business is a UCAM. Let me check real quick on that. I don't want to get it wrong. I've got that bookmarked. Let me see. MCAM, not UCAM. M-CAM. Dr. David Martin on X. This man was on Jimmy Dore yesterday. And Jimmy Dore is a lefty. But he's an honest lefty. He's somebody who was hurt by the jab. And I think that was part of the beginning of his cold awakening to reality. His cold awakening to reality, I think, started with the jab. It might have been before that. Who knows? Oh, man. Got to try to be a little bit more chill. Other side of the wall, I got my 1-year-old sleeping. He's a bit of a beast when he wakes up, and he's not fully asleep, so heard him kicking the wall. Strong little boy. But Dr. David Martin has some really, really interesting information about COVID. Very interesting information about the COVID shots. He was on with Jimmy Dore for about an hour, maybe a little longer yesterday, and it was one of the. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. We all think of the EcoHealth Alliance. Hey, we got one person on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube person. Even though usually when I mention the one YouTube viewer, you disappear, but that's okay. Like I said, I do have a YouTube channel. I think it's good to stream and put your content out wherever you can. But I definitely focus my stuff on Rumble and X more so than YouTube. Got 11 subscribers and they're gone. The YouTube person's gone every time I mention them. Oh, goodness gracious. Trying to keep up with the chat. Y'all are getting after it today. Appreciate everybody here. But the interview with David Martin on Jimmy Dore, it just kept blowing my mind. And watching Jimmy Dore, they ended up privating the stream, so we're not going to be able to watch the whole thing, and we don't have time to watch the whole thing today, anyways, because we're going to be mainly focusing on Potato Brain. But I felt like Potato Brain after listening to Dr. David Martin pretty much. I mean, we know that it's a bit of a facade when it comes to the apparatus, the power apparatus. But my goodness, some of the stuff, the information that he has, Jimmy privated the stream. I'm assuming he said he's going to put it back up on Rumble. Don't know when he's going to do that. Hopefully you do soon, Mr. Dore. But he definitely can't have that on YouTube. He cannot have that on YouTube. You guys are talking about Corn Pop. And Corn Pop, he was a bad dude, man. I broke out my chain. Had to tell him what for, you know? I apologized to him afterwards because my legs were hairy and kids rubbed them and cockroaches. Potatoes, mashed potatoes. But yeah, I've got a couple clips from. I've got a 6-minute clip and a 5 and then a 2-minute clip from. I've got at least a 2-minute clip from the Jimmy Dore show from yesterday, and hopefully at some point Jimmy Dore puts it back up on Rumble. You guys go check that interview out in full because, ooh, buddy, it's revelatory. We all think that we all have been told that the Eco Health Alliance and Peter Daszak and all that, we were told that was the big issue. And while I still think that's a problem, it kind of ends up looking a little bit like a smokescreen when you look at what all was actually going on behind it. That $3 million, grant from NIAID to Eco Health Alliance to do the research in Wuhan at the coronavirus lab in China. That was actually just a drop in the bucket compared to all the funding that has gone to such research and to development of literally development of the virus. That's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. There's another fella, Ryan Gable. He's got The Secret Teachings. I listen to him on Spotify usually, but I think he's on what is it called? He's on the same kind of vein as like Coast to Coast AM. Yeah, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. He covers some really esoteric topics. Got some good books. Got some really cool topics that he talks about. I don't listen to him as much as I used to. He kind of goes in and out with me as far as listenership. Sometimes he gets a little bit too doom-pilled. He, excuse me. He's had some really good shows on some of this information as well. But he is one that I kind of, and admittedly, I regret this, but I when he would talk about that there is no definitive COVID, SARS-CoV-2 like virus, like specified, drawn out, isolated as that, I was like, nah, that's crazy, man. They're testing, they're showing a positive result for something. Well, yeah, they were showing a positive result because the PCR tests, the cycle threshold was increased so dramatically to pretty much find whatever the hell they want. If you look at the individual who developed the PCR tests, a lot of that too. It's worth looking into. It's worth looking into. And then I think our last thing, so after we do the David Martin information, I think Common Censored is going to have more on David Martin coming up. I don't know if it's tomorrow or another day, but he's probably going to have a little bit more. And if the Jimmy Dore interview is in full somewhere, definitely worth looking into, Sterling. Definitely worth looking into. So, yeah, again, check out Common Censored. Great content. I'm pretty sure it's Monday. And heck, Sterling, if you want to drop a link to your channel in chat, go right ahead. I have no problem with people dropping links to their channels in chat. Go follow him. Good stuff. They've got good people in the chat there. And then our last topic, I think our fun one, I think it might be the nudists in California saving a Brazilian tourist from a madman with a blowtorch. Just let the combination of those words sink in. Brave nudists save a Brazilian tourist from a madman with a blowtorch. Yes. Yes, indeed. One of the things we're going to do before we get into our topics is we're going to go ahead and read an ad read because Rumble Ad Center cares about small creators like myself, and they offer an opportunity for us to do little ad reads. So if you guys can bear with me for just a moment here, I'm going to get this ad read out of the way for Patriot Shave Razors. Patriot Shave Razors. Do you have unwanted body hair? Something that happens. Before this stream, I was working on lining up the beard, getting it all nice and smooth. And you know what? I kind of wish I would have had the Patriot Shave Razor. If you're going to shave, why not be patriotic about it, right? Okay. So let me tell you about our sponsor tonight, Patriot Shave. Backed by over 2,000 five-star customer reviews and a satisfaction guarantee, Patriot Shave offers premium quality razors at affordable prices. That's important. In today's economy, it's all about saving money. And you know what? Patriot Shave, they've got your back. They're making it more affordable to get that excellent shave that you desire. But even better, they are a freedom-loving company that is standing up for traditional American values and fighting wokeness. They're shaving the wokeness away, guys. Shaving it away. While other big-name razor brands may salute flags or support causes that don't align with your values, Patriot Shave is here for you. The hardworking men and women who love this country and who don't want your hard-earned money to support woke causes. So throw your woke razor in the trash and go to patriotshave.com right now and use code SWITCH. That's SWITCH for 15%. That's right, 15% off. You want to save some money? Patriot Shave, guys. Check them out. That's patriotshave.com, code SWITCH. patriotshave.com, code SWITCH. Hopefully I did that justice. I think I need to copy the link, and pretty sure I have to copy that link and put it in the description to get the ad revenue for that. Thank you guys for bearing with me for that. I figured since we were there, might as well go ahead and get it out. Actually, let me look real quick here. I'll post that in the live chat, I think. Well, regardless. Hey, man, heck yeah. See that? Just saw that. So I'm going to pin this real quick for a minute and get you a screenshot of that if you want, or copy that link. Check them out, Common Censored. Yeah, heck. I've been on one other person's show, Sully, SC Medic. He's got the Gun Club here on Rumble. We had a great show about Alec Baldwin, which if you pay attention to the law tubers at all, they're all covering the live coverage of Alec Baldwin's trial. Alec Baldwin's not a good guy. He's just not. He's a terrible person. And Sully and I, we had a really good stream where we talked about that case and talked about some of the specifics with that. So yeah, if I can get it. If I can get the time and we can work something out, I'd love to be on the show, bud. Appreciate the offer. All right. We are almost to 30 viewers. If you guys haven't liked the stream yet, smash that like button. Give it a tap. Give it a caress. Maybe, tap it, then hit it a little bit harder. Whatever you like. Nibble on its ear. Wait. Gosh darn it. Thinking about Joe Biden again. Gosh darn it. He's on top of mind. Mashed potato brain. What's up, Teddy Vinny? I don't think I've ever seen you in chat. Appreciate you joining. Got some new people here. Salt dumpster. I dozed it. Oh no. What did I doze? Was it a good dozing? Just joined. I dozed it. Yeah, I dozed the ad. That was those ad reads are fun. I actually kind of have fun with those. So, and legit, there's some good products out there. If I had the money, I'd look into those solar power generators. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's a cool idea. I like that. Adam Baldwin is the best Baldwin. Agreed. He's actually there's one of the Baldwins that's more conservative, I think. Or is that Billy Baldwin? I don't remember. Is there an Adam? There's too many of them. There's quite a few Baldwins. But lovingly bludgeon that thumbs up. Yes. Well, yeah, thrice. Don't hit it twice. If you hit it twice, then it takes it away, and you don't want to take away the thumbs up. I mean, it's a very nice thumbs up. I like it. Not one of the siblings. Okay. Adam Baldwin. Okay. Nice. There is one. I think there's one sane Baldwin. I can't remember. I think it might be Billy Baldwin. I'm pretty sure it's Billy Baldwin. The blondish one with blue eyes, I think. I don't know. I don't pay attention to the Baldwins that much unless they're accidentally shooting, their camera people or producer. I think it was a camera person. Helena Hutchins. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. The narcissist known as Alec Baldwin. Hopefully, we'll see some justice, but All right, guys. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the press conference, the big boy press conference, guys. It was serious stuff. The big boy press conference with Joe Biden. We're going to watch through that. I'm going to have a little reaction to it. We might not watch the whole thing because we are already 45 minutes in. My goodness, I've been rambling a bit. Appreciate you guys. Loving the interaction. I'm seeing in chat. What's up, Neurodivergent 1? He was good in... You know what? Alec was good in Beetlejuice. I am actually kind of looking forward to this next Beetlejuice. I think they might do it right, guys. I think they might do it right. I don't know, though. I'm guarded. These sequels, years down the road, sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't. So, but yeah, Beetlejuice is a great one. Trying to keep up with the chat here. Appreciate you guys. If you like what I'm doing here, share out the stream. Post it on the places. I'm on Truth Social. Bill Dozer 74 there. Dozer 74 on X. Like I said, we recently passed 1,000 followers on X. We're at 1,055. If we could get up to 1,100, that would be great. Mostly just trying to, get the word out. And battling the lefties on X is something that I do indulge in from time to time. It's fun. Somebody suggested earlier that if I believed Trump's statements that he had some beachfront property to sell me, and I said, well, as long as your mother's there, I'm happy. Wasn't very nice. His mother didn't deserve that. She's probably a lovely lady. All right. Well, we are going to, if I can find it, I'm fairly sure I bookmarked it. We are going to go ahead and watch. Oh, there it is. We've got it in full. It says 58 minutes. We're probably not going to watch the whole thing, but we are going to watch a decent portion of it. And sorry if this popped up. Oh, there it went. Going to start sharing my screen, and we're going to go ahead and start with this press conference. Mashed potato brain Biden had his big boy press conference. We're going to watch some of it. You guys tell me what you think about it. And I'm going to try to not pause as often, but I am going to have to roast him at times. I cannot help myself. I have to roast the mashed potatoes. Makes it a little bit crispy. Just saying. No joke, guys. Got to get in presentation mode. There we go. Looks like we got it running. I actually do like Rumble Studio. It's not perfect, but I think it's pretty smooth, and it's the only thing that I've live streamed with, so it's got a special place in my heart. Let's go ahead and watch this excellent press conference from former Vice President Joe Biden. Respect the office.
That's because it represented the 75th year, the most important military defense alliance in the world's history of the world. We should never forget that NATO grew out of the wreckage of World War II.
Let's go back here for a second.
Well, good evening. We just concluded this year's NATO summit, and the consensus among the members was it was a great success. So especially momentous because it represented the 75th year, the most important military defense alliance in the world's history of the world. We should never forget that NATO grew out of the wreckage of World War II, the most destructive war in history. The idea was to create an alliance of free and democratic nations that would commit themselves to a compact of collective defense. Standing together, they knew we'd all be safer. Attack on one would be treated as an attack on all. And it's worked because a would-be aggressor knows they attack one of us, they'll be attacked by all of us. Sending that message is the best way to deter aggression and prevent wars in the first place. For those who thought NATO's time had passed, they got a rude awakening when Putin invaded.
NATO's time should have passed. This is absolutely, just saying real quick, this is horrifying. The fact that he starts out his press conference with a pre-prepared statement about NATO. Ukraine isn't part of NATO. Ukraine is not part of NATO, and NATO should have been disbanded after the USSR was disbanded. NATO was put in place to keep the USSR, the Soviet Union, in check. When they disbanded, NATO should have kind of disbanded itself. Yeah, you can have agreements and you can have treaties with people, but NATO is not a defensive force. It is an offensive force. And that's all it has done, even though we made an agreement with Russia in the past that NATO would not encroach 1 inch closer to them. This man is now taking credit. Mashed potato brain is saying that he's expanded NATO. That is asking for World War III. Honestly, guys, if you haven't been paying attention, you look at the historical context, we're kind of already in World War III, y'all. It just hasn't been acknowledged yet. When we read back, in the future, I think we're going to look back and be like, yeah, this was the start of World War III. Different type of warfare, but it's definitely there. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Invaded Ukraine. Some of the oldest and deepest fears in Europe roared back to life because once again, a murderous madman was on the march. This time, no one cowered in appeasement, especially the United States. We collected intelligence that Russia was planning to invade Ukraine months before the invasion. I directed the intelligence community to be a significant amount of intelligence to be declassified so I could start building an international coalition to oppose the invasion. Then in February, some of you remember, I warned the world that the invasion was imminent. I rallied a coalition of 50 nations from Europe to Asia to help Ukraine defend itself. Many foreign policy experts thought as Putin amassed Russian forces just 100 miles north of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, but Putin thought it was the mother home of Russia. The capital would fall in less than a week. But the Ukrainian people, backed by a coalition to help build, stopped them. Today, Kyiv still stands, and NATO stands stronger than it has ever been. During the week of this summit, several heads of states made it a point in their statements to thank the United States and to thank me personally for all that NATO has achieved. NATO is not only stronger, NATO is bigger because we led the charge to bring in Finland and Sweden into the alliance. And it makes a gigantic difference. Excuse me. Meanwhile, my predecessor has made it clear he has no commitment to NATO. He's made it clear that he would feel no obligation to honor Article 5. He's already told Putin, and I quote, do whatever the hell you want. In fact, the day after Putin invaded Ukraine, here's what he said. It was genius. It was wonderful. Some of you forgot that, but that's exactly what he said. But I made it clear a strong NATO is essential to American security. And I believe the obligation of Article 5 is sacred. And I would remind all Americans, Article 5 is invoked only once in NATO's long history, and that was to defend America after 9/11. I made it clear that I will not bow down to Putin. I will not walk away from Ukraine. I will keep NATO strong. That's exactly what we did, and exactly what we'll continue.
Again, Ukraine is not part of NATO. Potato brain. Sit down, shut up. Not part of NATO.
To do. Now, the future of American policy is up to the American people. This is much more than the political question. It's more than that. It's a national security issue. Don't reduce this to the usual testament that people talk about, issues of being a political campaign. It's far too important. It's about the world we live in for decades to come. Every American must ask herself or himself, is the world safer with NATO? Are you safer? Is your family safer? I believe the American people know. The answer to all those questions is yes. And I believe the American people understand that America is stronger because of our alliances. I believe the American consensus from Truman to Reagan to me still holds today. America cannot retreat from the world. We must lead the world. We are an indispensable nation, as Madeleine Albright wrote. Now let me turn to three other key issues. Just this morning, we had a great economic report showing inflation is down. Overall prices fell last month. Core inflation is the lowest it's been in 3 years.
If you have been shopping at Aldi recently, my wife just went shopping at Aldi, did our grocery shopping, almost $200 for a cart. 5 years ago, that same cart would have been $65, maybe $70. They can talk about the economy improving all they want. If you're paying attention, you know they're full of shit.
Prices are falling for cars,
Just like Biden's pants.
appliances, and airfares. Grocery prices have fallen since the start of the year. We're going to keep working to take down corporate greed to bring those prices down further. Meanwhile, Trump's calling for a 10% tariff on everything Americans buy, including food from overseas, vegetables, and other necessities. And economists tell us that would cost the average American working family another $2,500 a year. It's a tax of $2,500 a year. Second, our efforts to secure the border, southern border, is working. After Trump killed the bipartisan effort to secure the border, Republicans and Democrats had worked on, because he thought it would benefit me and make him a loser, Republicans walked away. So I took executive action last month. As a consequence, working with Mexico, border encounters have gone down over 50%.
Aldi's got really good fruit too.
The current level is lower today than when Trump left office. Third, for months, the United States has been working to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, to bring the hostages home, create a path for peace and stability in the Middle East. 6 weeks ago, I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There's still gaps to close. We're making progress. The trend is positive. And I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now. Let me conclude where I began. We're the United States of America. We are the industry.
Well, if you wanted the war to end, maybe, I don't know, the recent peace deal, the ceasefire that Russia put forth, where they literally said that they would stop at the places that they have already encroached upon, which, by the way, voted to be part of Russia in the past, because after the 2014 Maidan coup that our CIA instigated, those areas, those ethnically Russian areas, were bombarded with literal bombs and attacks from Kiev. So, excuse the hell out of me if I think Russia was actually doing a good thing by taking over those spots in Ukraine that didn't want to be part of Ukraine anymore because of their Russian roots and their, I don't know, desire not to be attacked by the Ukrainian government. Just saying. And, 2 years ago, there was a peace deal put forth as well. They were always ready to sign it until the West stepped in with Boris Johnson. Look into that one. This shouldn't be a thing right now. This is just so that he can call himself a wartime president. That's what this is.
Indispensable nation. Our leadership matters. Our partnerships matter. This moment matters. We must rise to meet it. With that, I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here. Reuters, Jeff Mason.
That right there, the fact that he has a list. When Trump did his press conferences, it was no holds barred. It was like the Wild West. It was fun. It was entertaining. It demonstrated that somebody like Trump can go back and forth with the press and can think on his feet. This man was prepped for these questions. He has a list of people to go to, and that's probably why he was like an hour late. He was late to his own big boy press conference, guys. And now he's 7 minutes in after his carefully prepared statement. I don't know if he had teleprompters or not. I think Harry Sisson was saying he did so great and didn't even have teleprompters. If you zoom out, I think he might have had some very clear teleprompters.
Mr. President, your political future has hung over the NATO summit a little bit this week. Speaker Pelosi made a point of suggesting that your decision on whether to stay in the race was still open. George Clooney and a handful of lawmakers have called on you to step aside. Reuters is reporting tonight that UAW leadership is concerned about your ability to win.
UAW just endorsed me, but go ahead.
Thank you. My question for you is, how are you incorporating these developments into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Vice President Trump.
The fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again. Secondly, the idea, I served in the Senate a long time. The idea that senators and congressmen running for office worry about the ticket is not unusual. And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now, later in the campaign. So there's a long way to go.
Gets closer and whispers.
And so I'm just going to keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We've got more work to finish. There's so much, we've made so much progress. Think about it. Think about where we are economically relative to the rest of the world. Name me a world leader who wouldn't want to trade places with our economy. We've created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs, 1.5 million. I mean, so things are moving. We got more to go. Working class people still need help. Corporate greed is still at large. Their prices, the corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. They're coming down. And so I'm optimistic about where things are going. Danny Kemp, AFP.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about your, you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today.
Yeah, he did.
And you now have sort of your key allies, including the British Prime Minister, the President of France, and the German Chancellor having to step in and make excuses for you on that. Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think?
Yeah.
And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now.
They call Trump a narcissist, but this man thinks he's the coolest thing since sliced bread. He thinks, which is, I purposefully said that corny comparison there. He thinks he is so cool. He thinks he's the best. He thinks he's just so slick, so on top of it. It's insane. It's insane. The man's in a different reality. Different reality. Of course, mashed potato brain. That's how it goes, guys.
At the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys,
What?
the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference? I know it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is well, anyway, I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. Next one, Nancy Cordes, CBS.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned other instances in history where presidents have faced a challenge. But what makes this moment in history so unique is that it is not your enemies who are calling on you to reconsider your decision to stay in the race. It's your friends, supporters, people who think you've done a great job over the past 4 years. Have you spent time thinking about what it would mean for your legacy, which you've worked decades to build, if you stay in the race, despite the concerns that voters say they have, and you lose to someone who you yourself have argued is unfit to return to the Oval Office?
Well,
Look,
I'm not in this
come
for
on,
my
man.
legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started. As you recall, understandably, many of you and many economists thought my initial initiatives that I put forward, can't do that, it's going to cause inflation, things are going to skyrocket, the debt's going to go up. What are you hearing now from mainstream economists?
Get closer to the microphone.
16 economic Nobel laureates
Whisper.
said I've done a hell of a job. And under my plans so far and what's going to happen in the future if I'm reelected, things are going to get much better. Our economy is growing. I was determined when I got elected to stop the trickle-down economic theory, that if the wealthy did very well, everybody else would do well. My dad was a well-read, decent guy. I don't remember much trickling down on his kitchen table. Middle-class people and working-class people need help. And so what happened is I decided to implement, was able to implement as president, what I believed when I was a senator. And that is that the way to build this economy is from the middle out and the bottom up. That way we grow the economy. And the wealthy still do very well. They do fine. And guess what? Find me an economist, a mainstream economist who said we haven't done well. What have we not done that isn't working right now? And so we got more to do, though. We got to finish the job. And by the way, I come from the corporate state of the world. Delaware has more corporations registered in Delaware than every other state in the nation combined. I'm not anti-corporate, but corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. Doubled. It's time things get back in order a little bit. It's time, for example, if I'm reelected, we're going to make sure that rents are kept at 5% increase. Corporate rents for apartments and the like and homes are limited to 5%. We're going to make a lot of changes that I've been talking about.
How exactly is he going to do that? By the way, we're up to 40 people watching right now. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate you. Seriously, good stuff. If you want to smash that like button, follow the channel here, BillDozer74. I'm Dozer74 on X. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. We'll get right back to this. How is he going to control rent? That's something that he can do. When landlords have to increase their rates because of all the costs of maintenance, you can't just tell them, no, you can't. At a certain point, they're not going to be able to be the landlords anymore. And then where the people are going to go that are renting? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but I don't think the man is actually that well intended.
Because we're going to continue to grow this economy. And by the way, remember how I got so roundly criticized for being so pro-union, not labor, union. Well, guess what? I've been the most pro-union labor president in history. Not a joke. Guess what? We had the Treasury Department do a study. When unions do better, everybody does better. Everybody does better.
He's so creepy.
And we talk about how, for example, remember when we talked about getting the computer chip industry back in the United States? Used to be 40% of the industry. We invented the chip. 40% of the industry was in the United States. And former presidents decided that the best way to do it is find the cheapest labor in the world, send the product over there and import what the product was. And so what did I do? I was told not to go over to Europe, to Asia, including Europe, but Asia. I remember going to South Korea, convincing them to invest $20 billion in the United States to build computer chip factories. And I asked why when they finally decided to do it. And the answer was because you have the safest economy in the world and you have the best workers in the world. So the whole idea here is we've invested, there's over $50 billion in investment the computer chip manufacturing just coming into being. None of you thought that would happen. None of you thought that would happen. But it's happening. It's happening. It's going to grow economies all through. And by the way, red states and blue states.
He just picked his nose. I'm calling it.
As
He
much
just
as
picked
red
his nose.
states and blue states. I've made no distinction. So my generic point is that the idea that we can't
Generic,
continue
geriatric.
to build and grow the economy, make it fair. Like I said, from my standpoint, when the middle class does well, that's when the whole economy grows. The poor have a shot, the wealthy do well. The wealthy got to start paying their taxes.
Follow-up, sir. You mentioned that your Vice President Kamala Harris would be ready to serve on day one. Can you elaborate on that? What is it about her attributes and her accomplishments over the last 4 years that make her ready to serve on day one if necessary?
First of all, the way she's handled the issue of freedom of women's bodies to have control over their bodies. Secondly, her ability to handle almost any issue on the board. This was a hell of a prosecutor. She was a first-rate person, and in the Senate, she was really good.
Kamala Harris was somebody who kept people in prison longer than they needed to so she could have cheap slave labor. Kamala Harris is somebody that locked people up for minor marijuana offenses. Kamala Harris is somebody whose family, I don't know, maybe owned a plantation. She's Jamaican Indian. She's not an African American. You can call her black, I suppose, if you want. Kamala Harris is a god-awful witch of a human being. There's a reason you call her Kamala. Just saying.
I wouldn't have picked her unless I thought she was qualified to be president. From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president. That's why I picked her. Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most straining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look, what I said was,
What limits? He's perfectly with it, guys. Come on. Vice President Trump told him so.
instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you look at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball. I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing. And I don't know how many, I've gone home to roughly 20 major events, some with thousands of people showing up. And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little more. Pace myself. And the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, that's what it was about. That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that, I love my staff, but they add things all the time. At the very end, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway.
What did he just say? What is he? His
I'm
staff
sorry,
adds things.
Zeke Miller, Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions for you. First, on the NATO summit, President Zelensky, in your meeting with him, he pressed you to lift your limitations on the Ukrainian use of American weapons, saying that, in his public remarks afterwards, saying that Ukraine cannot win the war unless those limitations are lifted. Are you reconsidering your position on that? And then secondly, following up on Felicia's question there, leaders of your own party have said that
What's up, Sangland? Thanks for joining, bud.
they're not worried about
Salty Saying and Sangland, you too. Everybody, appreciate you guys.
that debate. They're worried about the next bad night and the bad night after that. How can you reassure the American people that you are up to the task and that there won't be more bad nights at a debate stage or somewhere else?
First thing about Zelensky asking for the ability to strike deep into Russia. We have allowed Zelensky to use American weapons in the near term, in the near or abroad, into Russia.
Biden's staff, the underwear gnomes from South Park. They're stealing the underpants. Underpants gnomes. That's a good one.
Whether or not he should be attacked. For example, should Zelensky, he's not. If he had the capacity to strike Moscow, strike the Kremlin, would that make sense? It wouldn't. Question is, what's the best use of the weaponry he has, the weaponry we were getting to him? I've gotten a more long-range capacity as well as defensive capacity. And so our military is where I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense.
His commander-in-chief. Who's the commander-in-chief, guys? This man, the stuff that he is saying, absolutely wartime stuff. I don't see why Russia hasn't gone ahead and just declared all-out war. Honestly, I don't, against the U.S. I don't want it, but it is what it is, y'all. It is what it is.
And our intelligence people. And we're making a day-to-day basis on what they should and shouldn't go, how far they should go in. That's a logical thing to do. Second question related to
Bad nights, sir. How can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or it's a matter of foreign policy?
Well, I tell you what, best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's got more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs just last week. So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None. What do I got here?
This is so bad.
Merrick, Pulaski Radio.
Thank you, Mr. President. How are you?
I'm well.
The elections in the US have consequences around the world. You have pretty high standing in Europe. I just asked President Macron about you, and he said we are happy to have him as the President of the United States. But there is a concern. Many people in Poland and across Europe are worried that the former president may win the election. And there's a lot of concern that Donald Trump may weaken NATO, stop supporting Ukraine, or push Ukraine to give up territories to Russia.
They're correct.
And yourself was warning just 2 minutes ago about it. So my question is, do you think that Europe will be left on its own if Donald Trump wins the election? And what's your advice to European leaders to prepare for possible US disengagement?
Well, look, I think, how can I say this without sounding too self-serving? I'm not having any of my European allies come up to me and say, Joe, don't run. What I hear them say is, you've got to win. You can't let this guy come forward. It'd be a disaster. It'd be a disaster. I mean, I think he said in one of his rallies, don't hold me to this, recently, where NATO, I just learned about NATO or something to that effect. Foreign policy has never been his strong point. And he seems to have an affinity to people who are authoritarian. That worries, as I tell you, from Poland, that worries Europe. That worries Poland. And nobody, including the people of Poland, think that if he wins in Ukraine, he's going to stop in Ukraine. But that's going to be the end of it. And so what I can say is, I think I'm the best qualified person to do the job, to make sure that Ukraine does not fall, that Ukraine succeeds, that the European alliance stays strong. You may recall, no one was talking about Finland joining NATO. I remember talking to Putin right after we got elected in Geneva, and he was talking about what we should do. We couldn't be in Eastern Europe, et cetera. And I said, you're looking for the Finlandization of Ukraine, because you're going to get the NATOization of Finland.
He said it sounded like he tried to say Finland and nation of I don't know, Findalization. He said Findalization. He was trying to say something else, but he said Findalization. Findle. Is he thinking of fondle like he does to small children? Ooh. Yeah.
Finland. And about 4 weeks later, I got a call. No, that's not true. Probably 5 months later, from the president of Finland, could he come and see me in my office? I invited him to the Oval Office. We sat down and talked. He said he wanted to join NATO. Could I help? And I did. It wasn't automatic. And then I got a call from the Swedes. I beg your pardon? And so Finland.
Ooh, somebody tried to push back on him. You couldn't hear him, but somebody pushed back.
Joined NATO. 800-mile border is a significant, and they were already allies, but they weren't part of NATO. And you heard, I think you heard, maybe, I can't recall whether he said it publicly in our closed meeting, but he wouldn't mind it being repeated. He said, we decided in Finland, the people of Finland decided they had to be part of NATO. It was in our interest because of the joint ability to be together, to dissuade any attack on Finland. And the same thing with Sweden. It took a lot of selling to some folks, particularly in Turkey and other places, to agree to the expansion. But it expanded. And we're a hell of a lot stronger because of it. We're more secure because of it. And by the way, I was able to get 50 other nations, 50, to support Ukraine. 50. We were able to bring about a coalition of Europe and Asia, Japan and South Korea. I just we talked about AUKUS, and we talked about the relationship between Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, the United States. We're making the world safer and stronger because we have to deal with the new arrangement that exists in the world. The Cold War is over. The post-war era is over.
He was that close to saying New World Order, guys. New arrangement in the world. New World Order. That's what that is.
What is going to replace it? And I respectfully suggest I have a pretty good idea what that should be. I've convinced a lot of people to follow it. We're just going to get stronger. David Sanger. Where's it?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Be nice, David.
Mr. President, the NATO declaration that was issued yesterday was very notable because it described China as a decisive enabler of the war in Ukraine for its provision of critical goods to the Russians. That's part of a broader partnership that seems to have cemented in place in the past 2 or 3 years. I think one that you were a little bit doubtful of when we asked you about it some time ago. So I'd be interested to know whether you have a strategy now of trying to interrupt the partnership between China and Russia, and whether or not in a second term you would pursue that, if you could describe that strategy to us. And along the way, could you also tell us whether you think, just to follow up on Felicia's question, that if you were in a room with Vladimir Putin again, the way you were 3 years ago, or with President Xi, that a few years from now you will be able to go negotiate with them, handle them one-on-one?
Well, the first part of the question is, we discussed and I raised in the NATO summit, and others raised, the future of China's involvement, what they're going to do, what they're doing with Russia in terms of accommodating, facilitating them. They're getting access to additional, they're not supplying weapons themselves, they're supplying mechanisms for them to be able to get weapons. And China's position is basically, and I've spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has, over 90 hours since being vice president all the way through, for real. And by the way, I handed all my notes.
Not a joke.
But my point is that Xi believes that China is a large enough market that they can entice any country, including European countries, to invest there in return for commitments from Europe to do A, B, C, or D, or not to do certain things. What's happened is we had a long discussion about what we cannot, you have to make clear, China has to understand that if they are supplying Russia with information and capacity, along with working with North Korea and others to help Russia in armament, that they're not going to benefit economically as a consequence of that by getting the kind of investment they're looking for. And so, for example, we're in a situation where, and we've reestablished direct contact with China after that, remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down, and all of a sudden things came to an end? Well, we set up a new mechanism. There's a direct line between Xi and me, and our military has direct access to one another, and they contact one another when we have problems. The issue is that we have to make sure that Xi understands there's a price to pay for undercutting both the Pacific Basin as well as Europe, and as it relates to Russia and dealing with Ukraine. And so we, for example, if you want to invest in China, as you know this area really well. Want to invest in China, you have to have a 51% Chinese owner. You have to make sure that you do by their rules, and you don't have the authority, and you have to provide all access to all the data and information you have. There was a while there, as you recall, the last administration and other administrations, where the access to that market was enticing enough to get companies to come in because they had access to over 1 billion people in a market, not 1 billion, but a lot of people in the market. And so they were doing it. But that got curtailed when we started saying we're going to play by the same rules. For example, the idea they don't abide by the international rules related to subsidizing products by the government funding. So guess what? They're not going to be able to export their electric vehicles to the United States without a significant tariff. Others are doing the same thing.
I thought tariffs were a bad idea. I thought the tariffs on China were bad. Huh.
Around the world. But it is a concern. It is a concern that you have both China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, countries that are not necessarily coordinated in the past, looking to figure out how they can have impact.
That impact?
Yes, I do, but I'm not prepared to talk about the detail of it in public. And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. In China, as long as China continues to have this indirect help to Russia in terms of being able to help their economy as well as help them in, as a consequence of that, their ability to fight in Ukraine. The other thing we talked a lot about.
If y'all can't tell, the drugs are wearing off.
is that, and I raised it, and I didn't hear any, I can't swear that everyone agreed because not everybody got to talk about it. But we need a new industrial policy in the West. For example, we talked about how both the EU as well as NATO has to be able to begin to build their own munition capacity, has to be able to generate their own capacity to provide for weapons and the ability to, it came as a surprise to some of us how we had fallen behind in the West in terms of the ability to construct new material, new weaponry, new everything from vehicles to weapon systems. And so one of the things that came out of this was we're going to be meeting again with a number of my colleagues, my European colleagues, is what do we do to increase the capacity of the West, particularly in Europe and Japan, to be able to generate kind of ability to produce their own weapon systems. Not just.
If y'all don't know what MOHAP means, look it up. MOHAP. Who is that she? Is it a she? No, we don't know. Maybe.
Themselves, but to be able to generate that. It's the same, it's what Russia's trying to figure out. That they went to China and they didn't get the weapons, but then they went to North Korea. But we're going to be in a position where the West is going to become the industrial base for it to be able to, the ability to have all the defensive weapons that we need. That was a discussion as well.
You answered on whether you would be ready to go deal with Putin and Xi 2 or 3 years from now.
I'm ready to deal with them now and 3 years from now. Look,
this man ain't going to make it 3 more years, guys. I'm honestly surprised that he made it past 2 years. Whatever cocktail of medications they've kept flowing through this man to keep him alive, to keep him at least able to talk, because he's doing better than he did in the debate because he's prepared for this. Still god awful.
Like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior.
See you, Salty Saiyan. Thanks for popping in, bud. Bringing the fire in chat, Salty.
And but there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with. But I understand the generic point.
Never mind. It was him saying, Salty saying bye to Yanni Fangs. Appreciate you, Yanni Fangs. You have a good one, man.
Is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem. First of all, in this war that he has supposedly have won, and by the way, I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think that Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful. They've caused horrible damage, loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded. They have over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there. They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, But so I think that
He says anyway because he lost his train of thought and he doesn't know what the hell to say next. That's what the anyway is.
I'm
Man.
prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk. Last time I talked to Putin was trying to get him to work on an arms control agreement related to nuclear weapons in space. That didn't go very far. So my point is, I'm prepared to talk to anybody, but I don't see any inclination. There is an inclination on the part of the Chinese to keep in contact with me because they're not sure where this all goes. And look what's happened in Asia. We have strengthened the Asian Pacific area more than anybody else has. We just put together with today, I brought on, I asked our NATO allies that we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia. And I met twice now, I think, with the 14 leaders of the Pacific Island nations. And we've slowed down what's going on there. We've slowed down China's reach. But there's a lot of work to do. This is a moving target, and I don't take it lightly. Sam from NPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. Asma Khalid with NPR. I have two questions. Earlier, you spoke about the ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas. We're now looking at 10 months of war, and I'm curious if there's anything that you feel personally you wish you would have done differently over the course of the war. And then secondly, if I may, I wanted to ask you about your presidential campaign. I remember covering your campaign in 2020, and there was a moment where you referred to yourself as a, quote, bridge candidacy, a transition to a younger generation of leaders. I want to understand what changed.
Two things. Let's go back to when you talked about would I have changed anything that's happening with Israel and the Palestinians and the Palestinian movement. The answer is, as you recall, from the very beginning, I went to Israel, but
Exploding potatoes. Not even mashed potatoes. Exploded potatoes.
I also got immediate contact with al-Sisi in Egypt. I met with the King of Jordan. I met with most of the Arab leaders to try to get a consensus going as to what had to be done to deal with getting more aid and food and medicine into the Gaza Strip. And we pushed it really hard. And Israel occasionally was less than cooperative, number one. The Israeli War Cabinet, I've been dealing with Israel since Golda Meir. Some of the reporters around here come here all the time have heard me say this. The first time I met with Golda Meir, I sat across from her at her desk, and her assistant was Rabin sitting next to me. That's how far back I go. I know Israel well, and I support Israel. But this war cabinet is one of the most conservative war cabinets in the history of Israel. And there's no ultimate answer other than a two-state solution here. And so what was able to be done in terms of the plan I put together was it would be a process for a two-state solution. And we get the Arab nations to, particularly from Egypt all the way to Saudi Arabia, to be in a position where they would cooperate in the transition so that they could keep the peace in Gaza without Israeli forces staying in Gaza. The question has been from the beginning, what's the day after in Gaza? And the day after in Gaza has to be, the end of the day after has to be no occupation by.
Thank you so much for joining, Slidey Pie. You have yourself a good rest. Appreciate you hanging out in the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Appreciate everybody here. If you haven't liked the stream, smash that like button. Share the stream out if you like what I'm doing. Hoping to inform and entertain a little bit. We're almost done with this. Just a few more minutes left. And, oh, buddy, this has been interesting.
Israel.
Mashed potato brain or exploding potato brain. That is what we see on this. Oh, there we go. That's a good freeze frame. That right there. That right there. Do you guys notice that every now and then he's doing this with the podium? He's like reaching his hands forward and grabbing on the front like this. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
On the Gaza Strip, as well as the ability for us to access, get in and out, as rapidly as you can all that's needed there. I've been disappointed that some of the things that I've put forward have not succeeded as well, like the port reattached from Cyprus. I was hopeful that would be more successful. But that's why when I went to Israel immediately after the massacres that occurred at the hands of Hamas, the one thing I said to the Israelis, and I met with the War Cabinet and with Bibi, don't make the same mistake America made after bin Laden. There's no need to occupy anywhere. Go after the people who did the job. You may recall I still get criticized for it, but I was totally opposed to the occupation and trying to unite Afghanistan. Once we got...
He was also totally opposed to taking out bin Laden. That's what I think he's getting confused about here. He didn't want bin Laden taken out.
Once we got bin Laden, we should have moved on, because it was not in our... No one's ever going to unite that country. I've been over every inch of that, not every inch, the entirety from the poppy fields all the way to the north. I said, don't make the same mistake we made. Don't think that's what you should be doing, is doubling down. We'll help you find the bad guys, Sinwar and company. And all this criticism about I wouldn't provide when the weapons they needed. I'm not providing them 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or any populated area without causing great human tragedy and damage. But remember what happened when you had the attack on Israel with rockets and ballistic missiles. I was able to unite the Arab nations as well as Europe, and nothing happened. Nothing got hurt. It sent an incredible lesson to what was going on from the Middle East. So there's a lot of things, in retrospect, I wish I had been able to convince the Israelis to do. But the bottom line is we have a chance now. It's time to end this war. Doesn't mean walk away from going after Sinwar and Hamas. And if you notice, you know better than most, there is a growing dissatisfaction on the West Bank from the Palestinians about Hamas. Hamas is not popular now. And so there's a lot of moving parts. I just have to keep moving to make sure that we get as much done as we can toward a ceasefire, and get those. And by the way, look at the numbers in Israel. I mean, my numbers are better in Israel than they are here. But then again, they're better than a lot of other people here.
Ooh, that's going to go over well with his base. He said his numbers are better in Israel than they are here. Maybe because you're a shill.
True, but anyway.
Bridge candidacy in 2020, you referred to yourself as being a bridge candidate for a younger, fresher generation of Democratic leaders, and I wanted to know what changed.
God bless her for bringing that back up.
What changed was the gravity of the situation I inherited in terms of the economy, our foreign policy, and domestic division. And I think, I won't put words in anybody's mouth. Most presidential historians give me credit for having accomplished more than most any president since Johnson and maybe before that to get major pieces of legislation passed. And what I realized was my long time in the Senate had equipped me to have the wisdom to know how to deal with the Congress to get things done. We got more major legislation passed that no one thought would happen. And I want to finish it, to get that finished. If tomorrow, if we had a circumstance where there was a lineup and I hadn't inherited what I did and we just moved things along. Anyway, it's going to change.
Last question.
Haley Bull, Scripps. Or no, Josh Weingrove, I'm sorry, was the next one. I'll do 2 more questions.
Oh, so
Thank you,
generous.
Mr. President. Many of your colleagues, Democrats on the Hill, are watching tonight as they assess what they want to say about your candidacy. I'm wondering how you're thinking of this right now. It seems like your answer is clear, but they're watching how things go tonight, tomorrow in Michigan, next week in Texas and Nevada. Are you thinking that way about whether how the next week or two goes would inform your
Am I using that way? You say?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision, or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out, for the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway. And so what I'm doing is what I've been doing. I think we've done over 20 major events from Wisconsin to North Carolina to demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win.
We need a counter for all those anyways.
Persuade people to move our way, or people are already there. And then look, the other thing is we have the most extensive campaign organization of anybody's had in a long, long time. We have well over 1,000 volunteers knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls. We have headquarters. I forget exactly how many. I don't want to cite a number and then find out I'm off. But we have scores of headquarters in all the toss-up states. We're organized. We're moving, and that's awful hard to replace in the near term. And here's the other thing. I was in the Senate a long time. Very proud of what I've done in the Senate. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for a long time, and I was chairman or ranking member and chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I'm going to be going down to the Johnson Library. I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish and how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide on civil rights, civil liberties.
Almost done with mashed potato brain, guys. Mashed potato brain is nearly finished with his mumbling and slurring and utter BS press conference. The big boy press conference, guys.
Women's rights, that little button we have. Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea we're sitting around, that's where Kamala's so good as well. We're sitting around. More children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing?
What are we doing, man?
We got a candidate saying, promise the NRA, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything.
You got lost.
You got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history. This is ridiculous. There's so much we can do still. And I'm determined to get it done. It's about freedom. And by the way, I'll end this. Well, I'm not going to do that. Haley has to come up too. But the
goodness.
I remember I made a speech on democracy in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. And I'm not being critical, just observing. The bulk of the press said, what the hell are you talking about that for? Democracy. You did. Democracy is not an issue. Democracy is not an issue.
What's he doing?
Except the polling data showed 60% of the people knew I was right, thought I was right. I'm not asking you a question. You don't have to answer, obviously. Do you think our democracy is under siege based on this court? Do you think democracy is under siege based on Project 2025?
Oh.
Do you think he means what he says when he says he's going to do away with the civil service, eliminate the Department of Education, make sure, we've never been here before. And that's the other reason why you say, hand off to another generation. I've got to finish this job. Got to finish this job because there's so much at stake.
We've had some discussions over the past few days with your press secretary about the question of health exams. And you said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look, two things. One, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist.
Neurological exam is not the same as a cognitive test.
In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape. Okay? Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity to do decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter
forbid
is,
they actually say
I
the
don't
truth.
think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II.
What?
I'm going to move and see that we can expand it. You know, the only thing age does is help you with it. Creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention. And so the point I'm making is,
Well, and it leads to you being a senile old fool. But yeah, I mean, sometimes.
I think it's important that if the neurologist tells me he thinks I need another exam, and by the way, I've laid every bit of the record out. Hadn't hidden a thing. You ought to ask Trump for his, okay?
He did. He did.
I laid it all out. And every single day I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you, or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it. No one's suggesting that to me now. And I'll ask you another question. No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? What'd you have? Did you do this? How many times did? So I am not opposed if my doctors tell me I should have another neurological exam, I'll do it. But that's where I am. Haley Bull, Scripps.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis when it comes to support for Ukraine. Does that mean you have not?
Oh my goodness, the snodge on that one. Woo. It's a big nose. That's a honker right there.
Closed the door on further considering lifting restrictions for U.S.-made weapons inside Russia? And if I may, your convention is coming up where your delegates are pledged to make you the official nominee. If they have second thoughts, are they free to vote their conscience?
Obviously, they're free to do whatever they want, but I got overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. I won, I forget how many votes I won in the primary. Overwhelming. And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says, we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
Even if that means they vote for someone else?
Whispers.
Sure. Look. I'll end this with this. I served in the Senate a long time. I understand the impetus of candidates running for local office and whether they think if they can help them or not. In my state of Delaware, which was a very, at least a purple, it was a red state when I started.
Man can't talk.
In terms of where you now talk red and blue.
Okay, that's a great little headline to put there, CNN. Cognitive tests and neurological exams are completely different things. Okay? Get it right.
I don't recall most of the Democratic presidents winning my state when I was a candidate. The truth of the matter is I understand the self-interest of every candidate. If they think that, running with Biden at the top is going to hurt them, then they're going to run away. I get it. But so far, go and look at the polling data in their states. Look at the in-depth, and by the way, I think you'd all acknowledge, and you're all experts. I'm not being solicitous about the president. You're experts on this stuff. How accurate does anybody think the polls are these days? I can give you a series of polls where you have likely voters me versus Trump, where I win all the time. When the unlikely voters vote, he wins sometimes. The bottom line is all the polling data right now, which I think is premature because the campaign really hasn't even started. I mean, it hadn't started in earnest yet. Most of the time, it doesn't start till after September, after Labor Day. So a lot can happen. But I think I'm the best I believe I'm the best qualified to govern. And I think I'm the best qualified to win. But there are other people who could beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch. And, we talk about, money raised. We're not doing bad. We got about $220 million in the bank. We're doing well. So with that, you want to follow up on any of that you just asked me?
Yes.
Exasperated, yes.
You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that. Okay. Thank you.
This ends tonight's press conference. Thanks, everybody. This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
Okay. Okay, we'll listen to Trump. The thing is, we just listened to you for an hour, buddy. They try to get a little...
This concludes tonight's press conference.
Yeah, and then they scare off the press. That was something. That was something. Goodness gracious, that was a slog. But it was entertaining. I hope that was a little bit entertaining. How do you look at that and think that was good? There are people out there that are saying that he came across as strong and solid and respectful and what? What was the random shouting about guns thing? Why did that pop up? Where was that from? That was completely out of nowhere. Random bouts of shouting and aggression are indicative of something called dementia. Dude is... If that helped, if you think that was good, if you think that was good, what world are you living in? Oh yeah, he answered all the questions. Yeah, you answered all the questions, Joe. You're such a big boy. Look at what you did. You did it. You're a big boy. Good job, Joe. That was so bad. It was like she was talking to a small child, and he looked like he was so happy that she was giving him praise. Even though I know I said earlier, even though when he was lucid and with it, he was evil and horrible, so I don't feel as bad. But when I saw that, I am a human being, and I did feel kind of bad at that point. When I saw that, you did such a good job. You answered all the questions. That was... it was sad. It was. And if you have family or if you've seen family members go through, Alzheimer's or dementia, you kind of got to think of them when you see stuff like that. But Biden isn't your family member. Biden wasn't. Evil will do some horrible things to your body, and it's evident with Joe. I wonder what his true face looks like, besides scaly and green like the lizard people. I wonder how wrinkly he is. Like without all the face, without all the facelifts and the Botox and all that. Yeah. Just, woof, that was rough. That was rough. And of course he invokes 2025, which we're gonna talk about that here in a second. I really don't have too much on that. I mean, I've got a little bit, but first we're gonna talk, gosh darn, that was I listened to it earlier when Viva was going through it. Live reacting to it as it was happening, and man, that that was a train wreck. There were parts you know that he practiced, and that's the reason I think that he was so late, is because it was getting drilled into him, like all the stimulants that they pump him full of. Whew. That was rough. That was a rough one, guys. That's what our government's currently. That's the head of our government. He is the captain now. The dementia patient with a dirty diaper. That is the captain of this ship. The ship that is America. Our government is definitely in trouble. Speaking of our government being in trouble, let's talk a little bit about the SAVE Act. All right, so the Republicans were pushing forward a bill that would make it make it so it was a requirement federally for individuals to provide proof of citizenship. One of the interesting things that some states are doing, some states don't require that you provide an ID to vote. I'm in Missouri. Missouri makes it so that you provide either your voter ID or your driver's license. That's a smart thing. When the left says, when the establishment, even establishment right-leaning individuals, right, will say that voter ID is racist. Because why? And then they'll say, well, because people of color, they can't get to the license bureau. They can't go get themselves a driver's license. They can't get a government issued ID. Why? Well, because they might not know. They might not know. Do you know black people? Do you know people of color? They know how to get to they know how to get to the license bureau. It's extremely insulting that you would say that they can't make their way to the license bureau. That's racism. That is the soft bigotry of low expectations. I would argue that it's not even a soft bigotry. That's a hardcore case of bigotry, that you automatically assume that people of color can't get a government issued ID. Why? Because they just don't know? Come on, man. To quote Joe Biden, come on, man. Saying, I don't know if you see it, but I got a little piece of artwork right there. Little Goku Black / Goku, little Rose and Super Saiyan. Actually, there's a artist that goes around to some of the anime cons. I got that from. He does good work. He did the one over here too, the Ichigo mask from Bleach. I'm a little bit of a weeb at times, not hardcore. I only have a Shinron tattoo on my arm, Yeah, just a little bit. I want to get more tattoos at some point. Only when I'm white trash rich in March. Only time. The SAVE Act made it through the House, and it would make it so that they have to provide proof of citizenship to vote. There are, and let me find them real quick. I've got this bookmarked. There are 4 Republicans. I thought we might talk about James O'Keefe's O'Keefe Media Group's Disney thing for a second, but we don't have time for that tonight. Going a little bit longer than past 2 streams have been about 3 hours, so it's about where I'm at normally. Looking at the chat here. But where did it go? There they are. Here we go. We're going to pull these guys up and we're going to put them on blast. We've got 31 people here. There's going to be more people that watch this stream. By the way, if you haven't liked this stream yet, please smash the like button. I would greatly appreciate it. Share it out if you feel like it. If you like what I'm doing here, my goal is to inform and entertain. I'm here for you guys. I really appreciate the chat. You guys have been awesome tonight. Really enjoying the interaction I'm seeing. Hopefully we can continue to build this community. By the way, speaking of community, what's up, Gene Bondano? I like that username. Appreciate everybody joining. If you haven't followed the channel, Bulldozer74 here on Rumble, give the channel a like and a thumbs up. It helps with the reach. Appreciate y'all. Good to see you too, guys. one of the things also I've got, speaking of communities, I did go ahead and get my locals up. It is the Dozer Den, thedozerden.locals.com. Pretty much it's a place where, I post, what I find interesting, memes, articles, of course, links to the shows. I'm going to start posting other creators' links in there as well. Just using it as a little community to get information out. And just, if you want to join and you want to, I think to join is free. You don't have to pay anything to join the dozerden.locals.com. But if you wanted to make posts or comment and stuff like that, I think for locals, I think you have to pay for that. Nobody ever has to pay me anything. Nobody ever has to send a rant or subscribe. But if you feel so inclined to support a struggling young father, well, I'm 33. Don't know if I'm young anymore. If you feel like doing that, that is absolutely appreciated. If you feel like subscribing to the channel here on Rumble, I think it's like $5 a month. You get the option to use emojis or emotes that are not available to everybody else, and you don't have to worry about ads if you subscribe to the channel. And part of that is shows that you support a free speech platform. So if you feel so inclined, nobody ever has to send a rant or subscribe, but if you want to, I absolutely appreciate that. So the SAVE Act ended up, those are actually, those four, these actually are the ones that voted against the Garland contempt. So we're going to get to those guys here in a minute. What we're first going to do, though, is talk about the SAVE Act a little bit more in depth here. So we've got a short article to look through. And I'll share my screen here. Hopefully there's nothing crazy in the ads. Some of these ads get wild, y'all. These ads get wild in some of these articles. Keeps you on your toes. So I was reading through the articles, and most of the articles were against this. They were making fun of it. And this is the one. This is the one. And I brought this up because I disagree with this person, Rebecca Morin, or moron, as one might indicate, based on her writing. Yeah, okay, it may technically be illegal for them to vote, but they do. They get around it. They act like it's not a problem. It absolutely is a problem. And one of the things that you should be really concerned about, because people talk about illegals voting, they might not vote as much as one might think. But what you should really be concerned about, okay, when they move in all these illegals to these states and these cities, I used to think that, hey, Greg Abbott was doing a Chadley thing and Ron DeSantis was doing a Chadley thing by sending these illegals to these liberal cities. When they do the census, they count everybody. And what does the census affect, guys? It affects your representatives, doesn't it? It affects the Electoral College at some point. It's a long game, guys. It's a long game. They're not short-sighted. It's a long game. So, Rebecca Morin, the House passed a bill saying non-citizens can't vote. Well, they couldn't vote anyway. House Republicans and a few Democrats passed a bill preventing non-citizens from voting, though it's already illegal. The Trump-backed legislation is likely to fail in the Senate, and it did. It failed in the Senate because the Senate is full of better men, as they used to say. No, you're not better. None of y'all are better. You're citizens just like the rest of us, and you serve the people. That's your job. So from Washington, House Republicans, with the help of some Democrats, passed voter ID legislation Wednesday that would require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections, a regulation supported by former President Donald Trump, though it is already illegal for non-citizens to vote. Yeah, but provide the evidence that you're a citizen when you vote. Why is this a bad thing? Why is there actual fortification of our election process? Why is that bad? But yeah. So the bill, titled the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, or SAVE Act, would prohibit individuals from voting in a federal election if they do not provide proof of citizenship, and will require states to purge non-citizens from their official eligible voter lists. That's good. Why is this bad? Who votes against this type of thing? All voters would be required to present either a valid passport, a U.S. birth certificate, a government-issued ID, or naturalization card proving citizenship. That's great. Well, hello there, lovely lady. Ish. Not that lovely, honestly. But data shows that non-citizens voting in federal elections is virtually non-existent. Well, who got the data, guys? Who got the data? All right. Something you got to look at. There's lies, damn lies, and statistics. It's one of the most easily manipulated tools to fool the masses. So the bill passed the chamber with a 221 to 198 vote and will head to the Senate, where it will likely stall due to opposition from Democrats. And it did. Five Democrats actually voted for the bill. Good on them. Reps Henry Culler of Texas, Don Davis of North Carolina, Jared Golden of Maine, up in Maine, huh? And Vicente Gonzalez Jr. Oh, God, an Hispanic? Was he racist for voting for this? Interesting. And Marie Glusenkamp Perez of Washington. Oh, what is going on here? No, go away. Oh, there's Johnson. He's squishy. Very squishy Johnson. Ooh, that was poor wording. I apologize, but do with it what you will. The squishy Johnson. We need a hard Johnson in there as the speaker, guys. We don't need a squishy Johnson. Okay. Good Lord. House Speaker Mike Johnson in April said he would introduce the bill during an event with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, where he warned without evidence. Oh, they love that term. They said the term without evidence, guys. What is my mouse doing? Without evidence. They say that all the time. Just because you say without evidence doesn't mean the evidence isn't there, okay? Good God. Yeah, replacement theory is absolutely a thing. They can say that it's a conspiracy theory, a racist, right-wing nonsense conspiracy theory, but when they literally celebrate less natural, less native-born Americans, when they celebrate less native-born Americans, or let's go ahead and say it, when they celebrate less white people, when they brag about less white people, that is one of the most racist fucking things I've ever heard. Less of this population, that's a good thing. You fucking racist bastards. I hate the individuals that say that. The fact that you are, and the white people that say it, ooh, you self-flagellate at the behest of, I don't know, like, who are you doing this for? Is it so that you can feel better? Like, so that you can, like, just like, oh, I'm such a good white person that I hate myself so much that I'm happy there's less white people in this country. Fuck off. Good Lord. I need to get a graphic for a rant meter, guys. That's what I need to get. Sorry if anybody had me on speakerphone or, didn't have me on earbuds or something. But yeah, that one gets me flared up. So, Rebecca Moron says, non-citizens are already prohibited from voting in federal elections under federal law. Several other states are also introducing their own measures to stop non-citizens from voting in elections. It's not a bad thing. Iowa, Idaho, Kentucky, Missouri, show me state, boom. North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Wisconsin will have ballot measures to amend their constitution to ban non-citizen voting in November, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures statewide ballot measures databases. Oh, the drop boxes. That's another thing. Check, look into the, was it Wisconsin? Can't remember. One of the states recently reallowed. The Supreme Court shifted from a more right-leaning to a left-leaning majority, and they vacated a previous ruling that outlawed those ballot drop boxes. I think it was in Wisconsin. I know it was up north. No. It might have been Wisconsin. Yeah. But, yeah. So, what does she go on to say here? Oh, wow. My mouse did some crazy stuff there. Okay. So here we go. In the battleground state of Georgia, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger announced Thursday his office is in the process of conducting a SAVE audit of potential non-citizens who may have registered to vote. Yeah, they're going to find something if they actually look. Despite new legislation being introduced to stop non-citizens from casting ballots, there have been very few cases of that happening. Yeah, that you see. In addition, what is going on? So a 2017 study from the Brennan Center found that only 2 of 42 jurisdictions studied had improper non-citizen voting. There were 30 cases out of more than 23 million votes cast, accounting for 0.001%. Yeah, sure, honey. Sure, moron. Of the voters in those places. Rachel Ory, Senior Associate Director of Bipartisan Policy Center's Elections Project, said the bill is a messaging bill. At this point, as Democrats would not pass it in the Senate and President Joe Biden wouldn't sign it. Ory, however, noted that it shows what the priorities are for Congress if Republicans take control of both chambers. They ain't going to do shit. When the Republicans do get the majority again, they ain't going to do a damn thing. They had a majority when they had the best America First president you could ask for in Donald Trump. And what did they do? They pushed against him and tried to prevent the America First agenda from coming to fruition because they are part of the establishment, or at least most of them are. Even the Republicans, most of them are part of the establishment apparatus that wants us to be slaves to the elites. That's all they want. They want this country to be less than great. They want this country to be mediocre. That's what they want. It's my opinion. But back to this article. Ory said, the big change to federal law, if this bill was to pass, would be that it would require documentation to be provided at the time of registering to vote, rather than presenting citizenship identification under penalty of perjury. Good. In addition, Ory said, a 2013 Supreme Court ruling deemed it illegal to require additional citizenship documentation in order to register to vote. Did it now? I wonder if they would take that up again. Pretty big portions of the American public, even a conservative estimate, is about 9% of individuals don't have documentation that they could prove their citizenship with on hand. Ory said, so only 9%. Yeah. Republicans, including Chip Roy, who introduced the act, rejoiced over the bill's passage. We will only be able to keep this republic as a republic as long as our citizenship as Americans remains meaningful, Chip Roy said in a statement. Oh, apparently Aaron Mansfield, two lovely women there, contributed to the story. Thank you, ladies. You awful people. So, yeah, it got to the Senate and it didn't pass in the Senate, so it's not going to get any. It's not going to go. Gene Mondano. Yeah. Like I said earlier, as soon as they get elected, they start campaigning. That shouldn't be how our system is, but it is currently what our system is. It needs to be etch-a-sketched to hell, shake it up, redo it, get back to the Constitution. Follow the damn Constitution. It's there in black and white. It's not that hard to just look at the Constitution and do what it says. It's an instruction manual to not give rights. People, oh my God, when people say that the Constitution gives us rights, the Bill of Rights gave us rights. No, you're born with the rights, okay? They're inalienable. You're born with them. It is not from the government. It is from God, okay? The Constitution is there to hinder, to bring the government to heel. That is the point of the Constitution. It is to tell the government and it's to tell the ruling body with a big wad of newspaper, no, stay back. That's what the Constitution is for. But people are willfully ignorant when they say stuff like that. At least gosh darn, either that or they're just stupid. So, bunch of nonsense. Another thing that happened in Congress recently was the Garland. Garland absolutely should have been held in contempt. Garland absolutely should be facing the same type of penalty that Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro are facing. They're in prison right now, okay, for not adhering to a congressional subpoena. I don't think anybody else has ever been prosecuted for doing that. what's his name? Eric Holder. Eric Holder was held in contempt. He didn't go to prison. Many Obama era individuals were held in contempt. They didn't go to prison. They should have held Hunter Biden in contempt. He didn't show up to answer questions. But no, you got a few people. You got a few Republicans, which they are the establishment. That's what they do. That's these people. We're going to put them on blast, though. We're going to put them on blast. DC Drano, great account to follow on X if you haven't followed DC Drano yet. He's on top of things for the most part. Ooh, throat's getting a little bit sore. Let's show these guys. So you've got, let me see, put these sons of guns on blast. All right. Well, that's not what I wanted. So over here, you've got Tom McClintock from California, of course. John Duarte, of course. Oh, and you've got their numbers. Screenshot it. Give them a call if you want. I'm not saying harass anybody, but you are more than welcome to call these individuals' offices and let them know that you're displeased with their actions. They voted against holding Merrick Garland in contempt. I don't even know what the vote was, but Tom McClintock, John Duarte, David Joyce of Ohio, interesting, and Mike Turner of Ohio. So these guys right here, these guys. Yeah, screw these fellows. Establishment conservatives. It's one of the reasons I don't like the conservatives or the Republicans as a party. They're a bunch of freaking noodles, limp noodles. Most of them. One day the Lion Party will. I think honestly, I like calling it the Lion Party. Elephant's a little old. They the old brass needs the old guard needs to go, and I like some of the newer individuals, the young blood that's coming in, if they can stay. Madison Cawthorn, though, they took him out, guy in the wheelchair, because he called him out. Madison Cawthorn actually was honest and talked about some of the stuff that they do in the side, some of the parties they tried to get him to go to, some of the substances they tried to get him to use. Madison Cawthorn was honest about it. He was blunt about it. He told the truth. And Mitch McConnell fought to make sure he would not get reelected. They released the pictures of him being weird on a cruise. Young males are weird with other young males. Get over it. It's just something that we do. Sometimes young males do weird shit. Who cares? Guys made it like a big scandal that he was like had a bra over his shirt, being a dork on a cruise ship. That's what Madison Cawthorn did. And he called out their bullcrap. He called out the salacious backdoor dealings that they do. And he couldn't be allowed to stay because he told the secrets. He told the secrets, special secrets. That's what they were. Ugh. 2032. Get a right-wing FDR, huh? Hey, it'd be interesting. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to the fear porn of 2025, Project 2025. They act like this is the worst thing ever. They act like this is the scariest thing. They have been pushing it so hard that Trump apparently is the one that's pushing Project 2025. First of all, no, he's not. Second of all, maybe Project 2025 isn't that bad. Okay? Maybe Project 2025 actually has some things in there that are actually pretty good. Now, you can take the good things from Project 2025, which there are some. Let me pull it up real quick. Just a few things that when you compare them to Trump's Agenda 47, they're pretty much the same thing, just worded differently. Because you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to a project or a proposal or what have you. Some people were saying that if you accept some of Project 2025, you have to accept all of it. It's a very smooth brain approach, and you don't. You can take the good pieces and take the bad pieces and go off to the side. They say it's a Christian nationalist perspective. Well, what's wrong with being Christian and having pride in your nation? What's wrong with that? I'm a proud Christian that's proud of this country. Even though it's in a bad spot, I'm still proud of this country, proud of what it can be, and I always will be. I may be sad about the current state of our country, but it can get back to greatness. It absolutely can. It's up to us. One thing that we have to do, Trump's going to help, for sure. But do not deify somebody. He's going to help, but he's not a messiah. We, as people, the people, have to get after it. We have to get out there and make our voices heard. Peacefully and patriotically. As Trump said, peacefully, patriotically. Don't bring aggression, but defend yourself for sure when you need to. "2025 is not the boogeyman that they make it out to be. I understand why Trump distanced himself from it. I do, because there are some things in there that are pretty hardcore. I get that. He's more of an independent, which, I mean, that's one of the reasons I like Trump. He's not a hardcore conservative. He was a Democrat for years. Hell, I used to be a Democrat. Well, no, that's a lie. I've never been a party. I've never considered myself one or the other. Darn it. Oh, goodness. Gonna have to start. Let's see. To quote Biden. Anyways, the 2025 thing is a tool that they're using right now to try to smear Trump, try to smear the Republicans. When, if you look at it, 2025, it's kind of like the neocon Green New Deal. It's all the things, all the big bright goals of like the neocons. That's kind of what Project 2025 is. Honestly, if you look at the big ask, right? Art of the deal. That's what you could look at Project 2025 as. It's that big ask, the hardcore conservative goals and dreams. And, doesn't mean that they're going to put all that forth. And the Heritage Foundation does some great things. So I don't know why people are saying that the Heritage Foundation, just because Trump spoke at the Heritage Foundation, doesn't mean that he agrees with every single thing that they put out there. I mean... I voted for Obama in my first election that I could vote. I'm sorry. I figured it out shortly afterwards. I was 18. I was young. I believed the lies, that silver-tongued devil. He said some good things. He said some things that my, young brain thought were nice. And I was at that point where, I had a uncle that actually was in oil, and had some really good conversations with him. And I had said a few of the things that Obama said, like, why can't, you spread the wealth a little bit? And he said, he checked me. He was very calm. And he checked, because I was 17, 18. I think I was 17 when I was having that conversation with him. And he very calmly explained it to me, how that was a very stupid thing to say. And after he talked to me about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. And it helped. Talking to my uncle, good dude. He's since passed, but rest in peace, Uncle Joe. But I loved having conversations with him because he was a very successful businessman. And, little old me here in Southeast Missouri was able to, I learned a lot from talking to that man. So he was very influential. Even though I disagreed with him at the time, he put some stuff, salty saying, it's changed since then. I did conversion therapy. I was converted. Literally started listening to AM radio because I was just curious to what they were saying. And then I started thinking about what they were saying and realizing that, oh crap, they aren't lying. And I looked into the things that they said. Even some of the local ones that were kind of silly, they still weren't completely off. So I know that I'm, oh gosh. Speaking of, she's messaging me saying she's sleepy. Well, you know what? She'll be all right. We're going to be done here in a little bit. We are, oh goodness, we're at 2.5 hours, y'all. Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. I really appreciate everybody. You guys have been popping off in chat. I like it. If you like the stream, smash that like button. Share it out if you like. Follow me here if you haven't followed. I know I get a lot of views here, and I've got almost 300 followers. Almost. I'm at like 293. 7 more people. If you're watching this and you haven't followed yet, if you haven't created a Rumble account, because I think a lot of people like watching Rumble, but they haven't created an account. Even my wife, she'll pop up in the chat every now and then, Lady Dozer. She created a Rumble account. She only took like 5 minutes to do so. It's not that hard to do. So definitely worth doing. And you're supporting, like I said, a free speech platform like Rumble. It's not 100% perfect. No platform is, but it's one of the best ones out there that I see. And it's the one that I choose to support. And I stream through, I use Rumble Studio. I do stream to other platforms, but this is my focus because I'm going to support a platform that supports small creators and supports free speech. That's what I see in Rumble. So appreciate you, Gene Bondano. Yeah. No, there was, well, I'll say this. There was absolutely no white guilt involved when I voted for Obama. Obama's half white. I don't understand. I get it why people say that, oh, if you're half and half, they automatically say black. Why can't you call him white? He's just as black. He's just as white as he is black genetically. His mom is like from Kansas and was a ginger. It's the ultimate white. And then his dad is like African from Kenya, I think. He's got a brother in Kenya too that doesn't like him very much. His brother in Kenya supports Trump. Based Barry Soetoro's brother. Yeah, Soetoro. That's the actual. But anyways, let me see here. I think. Let me find it really quick, and then I'll show you really quick. We have some differences between Agenda 47, actually similarities between Agenda 47, which is the actual platform, and Project 2025. Let me find it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got into it on X with some of the lefties. Let me see if I can find what I posted here. Here we go. So I'm going to show this real quick. And if I can bring it up. There it is. Share my screen. So, Project 2025, dismantled the administrative state. Trump's Agenda 47, dismantled the deep state. Very similar. Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation, reforming the DOJ and its culture. This must include the FBI. Trump's Agenda 47, overhaul the Federal Department of Justice and the FBI. It's the same message. Project 2025, abolish newly established diversity, equity, and inclusion offices, which I like to say diversity, inclusion, and equity, because when you push those things, when you push that, and that is your main focus, your culture dies. Your country dies. Diversity, inclusion, and equity. That is the acronym. Your country will die if that is your focus. Trump's Agenda 47 says, removing all Marxist diversity, equity, and inclusion bureaucrats. Very good. Project 2025 says, restore America's energy independence. Trump Agenda 47, make America energy independent again. So very similar. There are some similarities between Project 2025 and Agenda 47. There are some things in Project 2025 that I don't agree with, but like I said, it's the big ask, and I don't think that they actually expect that those things will actually come to fruition. I don't think they do. It's a boogeyman. It's a straw man that they put up by saying that Trump supports it when he literally said that he doesn't, said he didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about Project 2025. There's some good people, and there's some people that I don't like. Just saying. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Agenda 47. It's the best. It's the greatest. Everybody says so. Been working on my Trump, but it's not doing too great. It's not doing too great at all. I try. Another thing, we're going to go ahead. People are saying that Project 2025, they're saying that is the platform. They're saying that is what Trump is going to do. No. right here, and I got into it. I don't know how. I'm not sure how X works, guys. I ended up at some point with 400 and something thousand views on a very innocuous tweet or post. But it is what it is. X does its thing. This one, for some reason, is like at 16,000 views. I think it's right here. So, yeah. So Donald Trump said that, and I get it. Like I said, I do get it. He said, I know nothing about Project 2025. I've not seen it. I have no idea who is in charge of it. And unlike our very well-received Republican platform, which I'll show that here in a second, had nothing to do with it. The radical left Democrats are having a field day, however, they're trying to hook me into whatever policies are stated or said. It's pure disinformation on their part. By now, after all these years, everyone knows where I stand on everything. DJT. So, where did it go? Go back. There it is. So this right here, this is the platform that has been adopted. The platform that has been adopted by the Republican National Convention. You've got 20 different things here. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. There we go. So, first thing that the RNC has adopted is their official platform. This is posted on their website. There's a bunch of other stuff with it, but if you pull it out, this is the meat and potatoes right here. Not mashed potatoes. Not mashed potatoes. We're talking about some stewed potatoes. We're not going to be like the former Vice President, Joe Biden. Respect the office, guys. Keep the titles right. So, number one, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. I don't like that he's calling them migrants. That's honestly kind of concerning that they're calling them migrants. That is the same language that they use from the World Economic Forum. Not good. Not good word. Not good usage there. Call them what they are. Illegal aliens. Criminals. Carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. End inflation and make America affordable again. God bless. That's a good idea. Stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. There's no reason why we can't be. Large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. As somebody who does DoorDash in the time that I can, that would be, well, I'm not going to say I made enough on DoorDash last year to, we'll just leave it at that. No tax on tips is a good idea. Defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. You better be a little bit better on the Second Amendment this time around, Donald. You kind of were off with the bump stock ban and the red flags. I think the quote was, take away the guns and then due process. That was after the Vegas shooting, and I get it. You were capitulating to an extent because you were scared shitless by whatever people were in your ear. Get better people around you next time, okay? Thank God you lost at the Supreme Court with that one. They got rid of that bump stock ban. That was one thing that I was glad Trump lost at the Supreme Court. That was not okay. That's something he's got to work on. He's got to get people that are a little bit more, the NRA, not the best. Gun owners of America, much more Chadley institution. You have the NRA with Wayne LaPierre that talks about banning assault weapons. It's not an assault weapon, okay? Not an assault weapon. Okay. I don't want to get it out right now. But, I mean, I've got my AR. I've got my bolt action 270. Thing is, the bolt action 270's got way stronger punch than my AR, okay? My AR is a fun little gun to shoot, and you put a 5.56 in there and you get a little bit more punch for sure. But my bolt action 270 deer rifle is much more damaging. Takes me longer, but good Lord, if you've seen what this thing does to a deer's heart from, 80 to 100 yards, whew, it's a good gun. Speaking of my Uncle Joe earlier, he's the one who actually got me that gun when I was about 15 years old. And I've been using that gun. Man, I'm going to go ahead and get that one out. You know what? This is a beautiful gun. It is my little bolt action 270. Bring it up real quick. I'll bring this back up in a sec. This right here, little bolt action 270. Had this thing since I was 15 years old. A little savage. It's a beast. It's a good gun. I'm not a great hunter. I'll just be honest. Only got a few deer. Much more of a fisherman, to be honest with you. But I do love being outdoors, and I love being in the woods and stay. And you know, when I get a chance to get out in the woods and take an animal, I'm grateful for that animal. Literally, I say a little prayer when I get it. You might think it's weird. Anytime I get a good good animal, you know, I thank God for it and get to enjoy the delicious meat. Let me share this again. My brother actually just got a 308. He was showing that thing off. Oh my God, it's a beautiful gun. Sanglant. That his 308 synthetic stock camo, light, so light. But that 308, I was comparing the 308 to the 270, and the 270 is longer and it's got probably a little bit. No, actually, it's a good gun. I haven't gotten to shoot it yet, but it's a very fun looking gun, and I assume it's a fun gun to shoot. So, yeah, 308 solid platform. Well, let's see. So, where were we at? We were at 8. Oh, yeah. Prevent World War III. That's a good one. We're already there, dude. You just got to get us out of it. Just calm it down. Restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country. All made in America. Making jobs, making defense, focusing on the mainland, focusing on protecting this country, which is the government's job. It's to make sure to protect against the enemies. That's defense. That's what we're supposed to be about. Well, thank you. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Gene Bondano. Not everybody has a chance to based on their... it's worth doing, even if you don't get a deer. It's the same thing with fishing, in my opinion. It's downright therapeutic. You know, he said, appreciate the compliment there. It's a nice gun. Really like the idea of sitting in the woods or in a tree for hours. It is deer stands you do a lot of thinking and just enjoying nature. It is something that I love going out and doing. Go out with my in-laws each November. Got a we call it the cabin, but it's actually just a single wide trailer pulled out in the middle of the woods, and we got an electric lines run out to it. And we got a poker table out there, and we have some good times. Good times, man. It's beautiful out there. Just being out in nature, waking up early before the sun's up. Get up 4:30, 4:45. Get out there about 5:30. Yeah, it's good times. It's cold. It says he hasn't tried hunting yet. Definitely done more than my share of fishing, though. There you go. There you go. I got a 7.5 or 7.25 pounder on a driftwood mount outside of the bedroom here / office / studio, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it is. It's worth getting out there. It's worth getting out there. Not everybody has the chance to get out there, but like what? Oh gosh, Salty didn't like it. Likes to actually track. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that style of hunting either. There's different ways you can deer hunt too. You don't just have to sit up in a stand or sit there. You can walk around tracking, finding rubs, stir up a deer, get up in some brush. You can, get after squirrels, rabbits. Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh man, you're in the spot. You're in a good spot for it then. You're Southeast Michigan. Yeah, I don't know what the laws look like there, and as far as hunting is concerned, I know in Missouri it's very big in Missouri. Conservation is really huge here. You go over to Illinois, and it's insane the cost to hunt there from out of state. So I've heard good things, but I don't know. If somebody would pay for me to go over there, I'd go, but I ain't spending the money. Yeah, keeping calm, not getting excited. Don't pull the trigger, squeeze the trigger. Yep. That way you actually hit your mark. When you get that good shot. My last deer, I actually got him on My brother-in-law did a European mount for me and put it on an old, the frame is old barnwood and then tin from the roof of an old barn. Really rustic look. I love it. Might actually bring it into the bedroom at some point. /studio/office. Back to this here. So we said prevent World War III. 9, end the weaponization of government against the American people. Good call. 10, stop the migrant illegal alien crime epidemic. Demolish the foreign drug cartels. Crush gang violence and lock up violent offenders. All good stuff. 11, rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C. Make them safe, clean, and beautiful again. It's a big task. I don't think you're going to get that done in 4 years. It's a good idea, though, and it's something that should be done. 12, strengthen and modernize our military, making it, without question, the strongest, most powerful in the world. Yep. Get the rainbow stuff out the military. I don't care. You are going to the military to be a damn savage, a brutal beast. That is what we need you to be. We don't give a fuck about your damn sexual orientation. I don't care what genitalia you prefer to put in you, on you, around you. I don't care. I don't care if you think that you're a tranny and you need to be in the military. No. The most of the individuals who are trans are severely mentally ill and should not be in the military. Now, if you want to be gender non-conforming or whatever, and you're able to demonstrate that you are not mentally ill and able to demonstrate that you don't need hormones, you shouldn't be. If you're in the military and taking hormone replacement therapy to change your gender, you're not healthy. There are a slew of risks that go with injecting the hormones that are antithetical to your biological predisposition. When you put the female hormones in a male body, it is dangerous. It is very damaging to the body, and you can't really serve too well. Ugh. Okay, brief rant out of the way there. So, where were we at? So, making the military better. Keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. That's might be done soon. With Russia and China moving away from using the petrodollar. That might be slipping away. That might be already done. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. Something's got to be done about Social Security at some point. I as a 33-year-old man, do not anticipate having money there whenever I retire. I just don't. And maybe it's because maybe that's a black pill or doom-pilled approach or perspective, but I don't know. I don't anticipate actually having a retirement. So luckily I've got my work and stuff like that. But maybe one day I'll win the lottery. Scratchers, baby. Fight for and protect. Okay, I already read that one. Cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome regulations. Yeah, there doesn't need to be a mandate on it. If you want to get the electric cars, that's fine, but you don't need to mandate it. States like California mandating that small gas engines be eliminated. That's going to destroy the industry for like lawn care and various other industries. Just ridiculous. Unless they can grandfather them in, but still, that's government overreach to the nth, and it needs to be stopped. Where are we at here? 16, cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. 17, keep men out of women's sports. Yes. I had some twat on X trying to ask me, what is a woman's sport? I didn't know that there were only sports only for women. I'm like, you're either a bot or just an idiot, and I don't want to talk to you. At that point, when you say stupid shit like that to me, I'm not having a conversation with you, and I'm going to mock you because you deserve it. Deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again. If you're officially pro-Hamas, like a terrorist organization, if you're supporting that organization, then and you're a foreign exchange student, then yeah, okay, deport them. But if you're just protesting against Israel and the government of Israel's actions, that doesn't mean that you're pro-Hamas. That means that you have a problem with Israel. So he needs to clarify that one. That one I have a bit of a problem with. He needs to get that one straight. Because just because you criticize Israel doesn't mean that you're pro-Hamas or pro-Gaza. If you can criticize Israel all day for being a violent, bloated, necrotic beast that has done some really horrific shit, including to the United States. Let's talk about the USS Liberty for a second, huh? Look into that one. Look into the, I don't know, maybe Bibi Netanyahu literally admitted that they had to create Hamas. Maybe look into that. Maybe look into how Hamas came about. Maybe look at the funding from the Israeli government and the U.S. government to fund Hamas. Just saying, it's worth looking into. Don't agree with Hamas. That Hamas does need to go, but I think I did a stream about that. That was the first or second stream I did, where I elaborated on my perspective on that one quite a bit. So, not going to get into that right now, especially since we are almost at 3 hours. Goodness gracious, you guys got me going. There's Biden too. The thing, yeah. 19. Secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. I love it. You need to include that there are absentee ballots for people, expats or soldiers serving overseas. Of course, they're going to include that, but people latch onto that and say, "Oh, soldiers need to vote too." Of course, they need to vote, and they're going to be allowed to vote. That's different. This is just the base. If you took all of these and expanded them, I'm sure there would be bullets underneath them. So, yeah. Yep. It's a great point, Gene Mondano. If they have such a great intel apparatus there in Israel, why wouldn't they go ahead and be able to stop that, huh? It almost seems like they let it happen to justify what they've been doing recently. Kind of like 9/11. Yeah. Don't care. 9/11 was facilitated by the government / allowed to happen by the government so that we could justify going into the Middle East and fucking shit up. Sorry. It's what happened. That is what happened. Oh, we're getting spicy late in the stream, guys. We're getting spicy. I'm getting a little tired. Here. Little sleepy Bill dozer. All right. Last one on there. Unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success. Those all sound great. That's the Republican National Committee. That is the one adopted from Trump to the RNC. That is the platform. That's not Agenda 20 or Project 2025, although I assume that Project 2025 has some of the same things in it. You can take the good stuff that's there. It's okay. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, like I said earlier. So, Salty saying, I agree. Yeah. Yep. Oh, man. Yeah, you guys are raising some good points here. We're going to go ahead and do our last story here. Thank you guys for watching. It is almost at 3 hours. Appreciate you. We have, I talked about it at the beginning. We had Dr. Dave Martin. Dr. David Martin. He has MCAM, worth a follow on X, by the way. Let me stop sharing real quick and get it to where I need it. And again, Project 2025 is the boogeyman that they're using, the straw man that they're putting up to attack Trump. That's not Trump. That is the straw man. Don't check people when they try to say that it's Trump's policy. Yeah, a lot of the people that were on his in his administration, in his cabinet, or serving under him are involved in the Heritage Foundation. And doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that they say. Just because you clearly look at Pence, all right? Trump had some rough hiring decisions. He put some horrible people in spots last admin. Let's hope he learned his lesson. He says he has. Hope it's the truth. Yeah, it's a Project 2025. I mean, I think it's like 900 pages. At least I've heard that thrown around. I don't know if that's actually how big it is. Rather extensive from the sound of it. It's essentially a fever dream for neocons from the sound of it. There are some good things in it, I assume. There's some really bad people, but there's some very fine things in this, I assume. Ooh, that hurt. Goodness. What else did we have here? We had yes. So we're going to show this guy, Dr. David Martin. My apologies. Again, I caught the Biden. Oh no. Okay. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. I'm going to share this out. We're going to listen to, this is actually from, I don't remember when he had this, when he did this speech, but Dr. David Martin was on Jimmy Dore recently, and hopefully Jimmy Dore releases that, puts it back out on Rumble. I know he had to private it for some reason. I guess he was doing some editing, but he said on the stream that he wouldn't be able to put it on YouTube, but he said he would put it back up on Rumble. So Jimmy Dore, please put it back up. You had an awesome hour-and-a-half conversation with this man, and I would love to break it down a little bit at a later time. If you would put it back up there, if that was okay, I would hope so. But let's go ahead and listen to Dr. David Martin.
As a model of a pathogen, I don't know that coronavirus as a model of a pathogen was isolated in 1965. Coronavirus was identified in 1965 as one of the first infectious replicatable viral models that could be used to modify a series of other experiences of the human condition. It was isolated once upon a time associated with the common cold. But what's particularly interesting about its isolation in
just going to point out bow tie. Nice.
1965 was that it was immediately identified as a pathogen that could be used and modified for a whole host of reasons. And you heard me correctly, that was 1965. And by the way, these slides are public domain. You're welcome to look at every single reference. Every comment that I made is based on published material. So do make sure that you look at those references. But in 1966, the very first COV coronavirus model was used as a transatlantic biological experiment in human manipulation. And you heard the date, 1966. I hope you're getting the point of what I'm saying. This is not an overnight thing. This is actually something that's been long in the making. A year before I was born, we had the first transatlantic coronavirus data sharing experiment between the United States and the United Kingdom. And in 1967, the year I was born, we did the first human trials on inoculating people with modified coronavirus. Isn't that amazing? 56 years ago, the overnight success of a pathogen that's been 56 years in engineering. And I want that to chill with all of you. Where were we when we actually allowed, in violation of biological and chemical weapons treaties, where were we as a human civilization when we thought it was an acceptable thing to do to take a pathogen for the United States and infect the world with it? Where was that conversation? And what should have been that conversation in 1967? That conversation wasn't had. Ironically, the common cold was turned into a chimera in the 1970s. And in 1975, 1976, and 1977, we started figuring out how to modify coronavirus by putting it into different animals, pigs and dogs. And not surprisingly, by the time we got to 1990, we found out that coronavirus as an infectious agent was an industrial problem for two primary industries, the industries of dogs and pigs. Dog breeders and pigs found that coronavirus created gastrointestinal problems, and that became the basis for Pfizer's first spike protein vaccine patent filed, are you ready for this, in 1990. Did you hear what I just said? 1990. Operation Warp Speed? I'm sorry. Where's the warp and the speed? Pfizer, 1990, the very first spike protein vaccine for coronavirus. Isn't that fascinating? Isn't it fascinating that we were told that, well, the spike protein is a new thing. We just found out that that's the problem. No. As a matter of fact, we didn't just find out it was not just now the problem. We found that out in 1990 and filed the first patents on vaccines in 1990 for the spike protein of coronavirus. And who would have thought? Pfizer. Clearly the innocent organization that does nothing but promote human health. Clearly Pfizer.
Just realized I'm still streaming to YouTube too, so I'm probably going to get a fun little note or a email from YouTube about this.
The organization that has not bought the votes in this chamber and in every chamber of every government around the world. Not that Pfizer. Certainly they wouldn't have had anything to do with this. But oh yes, they did. And in 1990, they found out that there was a problem with vaccines. They didn't work. You know why they didn't work? It turns out that coronavirus is a very malleable model. It transforms and it changes and it mutates over time. As a matter of fact, every publication on vaccines for coronavirus from 1990 until 2018, every single publication concluded that coronavirus escapes the vaccine impulse, because it modifies and mutates too quickly for vaccines to be effective. And since 1990 to 2018, that is the published science, ladies and gentlemen. That's following the science. Following the science is their own indictment of their own programs that said it doesn't work. And there are thousands of publications to that effect, not a few hundred, and not paid for by pharmaceutical companies. These are publications that are independent scientific research that shows unequivocally, including efforts of the chimera modifications made by Ralph Barrick in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. All of them show
Ralph Barrick and Chapel Hill, that's something he talked about at length in the Jimmy Dore interview. Ralph Barrick, Chapel Hill. You want to do some deep diving? Those are some two things that you can search. Very interesting stuff on them.
Vaccines do not work on coronavirus. That's the science. And that science has never been disputed. But then we had an interesting development in 2002. And this date is most important because in 2002, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill patented, and I quote, an infectious replication defective clone of coronavirus. Listen to those words, infectious replication defective. What does that phrase actually mean? For those of you not familiar with language, let me unpack it for you. Infectious replication defective means a weapon. It means something meant to target an individual, but not have collateral damage to other individuals. That's what infectious replication defective means. And that patent was filed in 2002 on work funded by NIAID's Anthony Fauci from 1999 to 2002. And that work, patented at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, mysteriously preceded SARS 1.0 by a year. Dave, are you suggesting that SARS 1.0 wasn't from a wet market in Wuhan? Are you suggesting it might have come from a laboratory in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill? No, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling you that's the facts. We engineered SARS. SARS is not a naturally occurring phenomenon. The naturally occurring phenomenon is called the common cold. It's called influenza-like illness. It's called gastroenteritis. That's the naturally occurring coronavirus. SARS is the research developed by humans weaponizing a life system model to actually attack human beings. And they patented it in 2002. And in 2003.
Yeah. Yep. That's the thing. That's the thing. It. Oh, what are we looking at here?
Don't know that coronavirus.
Here we go. Here's the one with
Once upon a time.
Let's go ahead and play this real quick. Just another 2 minutes here. Here's a clip from Dr. David Martin on the Jimmy Dore show. Probably one of my favorite lefties, I guess, because he actually is honest about it. He's still learning. He's still realizing some things, but for the most part, he actually is pretty fun to listen to. And Kurt Metzger is hilarious as a comedian, so worth watching. He says some dumb shit sometimes. He does. There for a while, it was all Israel. And don't get me wrong, criticize Israel if you want, but that stuff that Dr. Martin was just talking about, it goes so far back. This is, again, guys, I said it earlier, they're playing the long game. This has been a process, and we've been so sleepy and complacent as a population that we've let it freaking happen.
We were worried about the opioid crisis that was killing people, hundreds of thousands of people across the country, millions of people around the world. And ironically, I pointed out that Purdue Pharmaceuticals was patenting a non-addictive formula for the opioid drugs that they were selling so that no one could produce them. So that the only drugs that could be produced were addictive. So they patented the non-addictive forms, kept them from the market. And I spent 18 months on the editorial meetings at CNBC from 2016 to 2018, trying to get that story told. But apparently, that was not a newsworthy story. It wasn't a newsworthy story to say that while we had get ready for this, we had a declared pandemic, we had a declared emergency use authorization for anything we could do to actually deal with the opioid crisis. But the company that was making the drugs filed patents on the non-addictive formulas so that no one could produce them. And for 2 years, the CNBC editorial board told me that story couldn't run because it wasn't newsworthy. We're now finding out that Purdue Pharmaceutical was a corrupt company, but they literally are responsible, no kidding, for hundreds of thousands of deaths across this country. And they would not do the story. CNBC to this day will not do the story on the non-addictive patents for opioid drugs.
Why have I never heard this story? Why do I have to have you come on the show for us to? No one else has covered. Has anybody else covered this?
No one has covered this story ever. No one has ever covered it.
Dippy liberals that at least know Purdue Pharma is bad, they think of like Pfizer's great. Purdue Pharma, they all saw the Netflix document, all the various docs. That information I've never heard from any of them.
I've never heard. It's not in that. It's not in the. They did a documentary on Purdue and all the opioid crisis.
Never, Jimmy, never once has this story been ever publicized, despite 2 years of me recommending to the CNBC editorial board that we cover it, and not once was it covered.
And so, what is that like when you are you in a meeting when you recommend it, or you do it through email? So what happens at the meeting?
No, I'm sitting up in New Jersey at the headquarters of CNBC, and I'm told that you can't have these conversations because advertisers will not approve running these kind of stories.
And that's that.
I'm still blown away that's a technology that exists.
I'm blown away too.
Once upon a time.
So they had a non-addictive opioid or non-addictive painkiller that they could have had out there that could have saved thousands of lives, prevented so much destruction of families, poor white families. It's when they Appalachia, right? The opioid crisis there in Appalachia. If you know people there are people that never had a problem with drugs, would have never touched any substances. They get injured, they get hurt. It doesn't directly deal with COVID, but it's about the big pharma, so that's why I felt like playing that clip too. People that have never had a problem with drugs, straight-laced folks, they get injured, they get their back hurt, their legs hurt, whatever. Doctors were just handing out that shit because they were getting paid. Oh, it's not addictive. They knew it was. People should go through due process and then be publicly ended for stuff like that. The people that were responsible for that type of evil should be, after due process, met with an absolute form of justice, in my opinion. The damage that in itself did to people is inexcusable. The darkest depths of hell await them. If they don't get their just desserts in this life, I pray they'll get it in the next. That may not be very Christian of me, but you know what? Can't help it. I'm a flawed individual, and I absolutely have the utmost malice for those individuals, Purdue, whatever industry, whatever big pharma industry would dare cause more harm than good. You deserve it. You deserve every bit of negative energy that comes to you. That's where I'm at with that one. Hopefully Jimmy Dore gets his whole interview back up. It was a great interview, about an hour and a half, I think. Started about 2 hours into his stream. So I don't know if he's going to clip that out and just post it on its own individually or what. But anyways, guys, we're at, God darn, we're over 3 hours. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this really quick. So we're done with all the serious stuff. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap here. We talked about the Biden's big boy press conference. Covered that. We talked about the SAVE Act a little bit and Garland not being held in contempt, inherent contempt when he should have been. If you want to be consistent with it, you got to do it. We then talked about the 2025 fear porn that has been ever present in the media after that horrible debate performance from Biden, where everybody saw the mashed potatoes of that is our president. We have mashed potato president. Yep, the mashed potato in chief, guys. That's what we got. But they've been really going hard about this Project 2025 now and trying to say that it's Trump's plan. And while Agenda 47 has some similarities to it, it is not directly the same thing. Just a second here. Finding our fun little lighthearted story here at the end. Thank God it's blurred. Okay, so after we talked about the 2025 fear porn, we just presented the little clips from those couple clips from Dr. David Martin. Dr. David Martin is a Chadley individual. MCAM, he's worth follow on X. I don't know if he's got a Rumble or not. Darn it. Am I going to be able to play this? Most of it's blurred. I don't know. Hide your kids. We're at 3 hours into the stream. We're going to go ahead and play this little clip real quick. This is our fun story. This is our lighthearted story. We're done with all. Oh, look at that. We got... I don't know how you say that. So is that a T? Low? IOH Salvin? Well, thank you so much for being in the chat. Appreciate everybody who's joined. Appreciate everybody who's been hanging out the whole time. If you've managed to hang out for 3 hours, God bless you. Been a fun stream. I've enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for joining. Had really fun with the chat. We're done with all the serious topics. So we're going to cover this lovely story from California. Pause it. Okay, go back here. There we go. I don't think I'm going to expand the screen, but here's the headline. Brave nudists fend off crazed maniac with a blowtorch attacking a Brazilian tourist. God bless the nudists. In the Castro district, a gay-friendly neighborhood. Castro. Not Jacob Castro. He's a Chad. All right, I'm gonna bring this up real quick, and this is our fun, lighthearted story. This is just I'm not gonna say jacking around, but here's our fun. Nudists save Brazilian tourist. God bless America. Crazed man with a blowtorch attacking a poor Brazilian tourist. Go get him. Go get him with that blowtorch. Oh, sneak attack. With a dress. Dude in the dress got it. Oh, attack. Attack. No. No, get him. Get him, naked guy. Get him. Go. Oh, get him again. Get him again. Oh, dude in the dress is coming back. He's got the torch. He's got power now.
You come here. Come in. Come in, please.
What the hell, California? What in the hell? Oh my God. We're Brazilian tourists.
Hey!
Get him. He's the one who had the blowtorch. He needs it.
Go.
Okay. That was our lighthearted story. Gosh, just think of that. Just think of that. Oh, gosh, darn, that was interesting. Thankfully, those random naked men were there to help him out. What does that say? A tourist comes to this country and looks and encounters that. What a scene! A Brazilian tourist just here to, take in America. He got a little bit more America than he needed. The dude in the dress with. Whoa there. Yeah, what the shit? Gene Bondano. That I've been doing at the end of my streams. We cover some really serious stuff, all right? And it's easy to get blackpilled on some of these things. So what I've been trying to do is at the end of my streams, I end with a fun story or a funny story or an absurd story or a white pill. I guess the white pill is nudists are protecting the tourists. But this was just absurd, an insanely absurd story. Felt like sharing it with you guys here at the end. Mohap. Mohap torches. Goodness gracious. Well, this has been a great stream, guys. We are at 3 hours and 15 minutes, and my wife is probably sleeping downstairs, so I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Really appreciate you guys joining. If you haven't followed the channel yet, Bill Dozer 74 here on Rumble. I'm Bill Dozer 74 over on Truth. Bill Dozer 74 on Gab. Dozer 74 on X. I am so close to 1,100. I'm at like 1,060 on X. Here on Rumble, if you haven't followed this channel here on Rumble, I am 7 away, last I checked, from 300. If I get to 300 followers for the next stream, I'm going to don a red cape, Sparta style, and I think that's all I've got gimmick-wise for 300. Maybe a shield. Bring a trash can lid in or something. I don't know. Once I hit 300, we'll do something silly. But I do streams Thursday nights at 9:30. We usually go about 2 hours. Tonight was a little bit longer because we watched that whole press conference, the big boy press conference. Usually we keep it to around 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 15. I talk about stuff and things. Usually 3 to 4 interesting news stories, and then I like to end on a little bit of a high note. My goal is to inform and entertain. I also have the dozerden.locals.com if you are on Locals. It's free to join the community there. I post stories that I find interesting, spicy memes, silly stuff, just things I find interesting. My wife thought it was a silly name, the Dozer Den. She made some adult jokes. Do with that what you will. I think it's good. I like the alliteration. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a great stream. Hope to see you guys next Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Central. Y'all have a good one.